Kang Jin-hyuk was a hunter, but not the typical kind. He possessed unique skills that set him apart from others in his field, unlike those who made headlines or capitalized on their fame. As a lowly D rank, the most he could rely on were odd jobs and remnants left behind by the major guilds. He had long since learned the harsh truths of this world. Power decided everything, and without it, nothing could be achieved. Even hunters could be trampled. That's why when a strange sound echoed through the room, prompting him to go check, he froze at the sight before him. A shimmering portal pulses with light, opening to another world teeming with monsters. They couldn't see him, but he could move through without any harm. For a man with nothing left to lose, the situation was both strange and frightening. It presented an opportunity to advance solo in his own exclusive dungeon. Every monster and every treasure here was his to claim, with no one else to steal the rewards. Kang Jin-hyuk had finally found a path to the top. With nothing left to lose, he took a deep breath and stepped through the portal. He emerges on the first floor of a dungeon maze, barely having time to take in his surroundings before a goblin rushes at him from the left. He narrowly evades a stick aimed at his face and quickly dodges back into his attic. The goblin looks around in confusion, swinging at the air. It seems they truly cannot see the portal, which means they are unable to join him on his side. Now that he knows this, there's no reason to be afraid. He grabs a baseball bat and leaps back through the portal to confront the goblin head-on. He swings the bat, striking the goblin's cheek, sending the creature soaring before delivering a stab to its chest. With the goblin defeated, the heroes took a moment to catch their breath and assess their surroundings. He raises his bat and swings it down onto its face, defeating it instantly. This was the first time he had ever hunted monsters alone, and since he didn't have to share experience points with anyone, they were all his for the taking. With the goblin defeated, his level, which hadn't increased in 3 years, rose immediately. The goblin corpse was also his for the taking, and it could fetch him up to 3 million won if he sold it in the right markets. The following day, he brings it to a hunter's market and attempts to sell it to a merchant. The man realizes that he lacks significant experience in dungeons. The way he handled the goblin significantly reduced the threat it posed. Despite this, he still managed to secure a price of over 3 million won, just as he had hoped. All he needed to do was provide the name of the area where he had hunted down the goblin, and he would receive his payment immediately. If someone discovered the dungeon in his attic, his profits could vanish. As he attempts to find a way out of the predicament he's in, a group of hunters from the Black Dragon Guild storms into the area like a pack of hyenas. Someone has stolen a kill from their territory, and they are furious about it. At first, they believe it's Jin-hyuk and approach him to confront him, but the merchant shifts their focus to a blonde-haired hunter who remains oblivious to the unfolding situation. The hunters approach him and beat him until he can barely move. He sneaked into their territory and attempted to hunt monsters there without permission. For all they know, he could be the serial killer they've been searching for. The man struggled to speak. They drag him out of the building to continue their interrogation. The man who was beaten to a pulp could easily have been Jin-hyuk. After witnessing the scene, he realizes he can't lie about where he obtained the goblin, prompting him to reconsider selling it there. He needs to find another way to sell his loot without dealing with the thugs from larger guilds if he wants to keep his life safe. As soon as Jin-hyuk returns home, he decides to dive back into the dungeon to focus on becoming stronger. Before heading in, he must equip himself with enough gear to survive a journey into such a dangerous environment. He arms himself with a teleportation stone that enables him to escape danger and return to his apartment. He also possesses a monster tracking compass that reveals any monsters within a 50-meter radius. Armed with that and his trusty baseball bat, he steps into the dungeon for a round of leveling up. He embarks on a killing spree, with each kill elevating him by 1 level. True to its name, the Goblin Labyrinth is teeming with goblins. For someone at his low level, this was the perfect hunting ground to gain experience and grow stronger. After a long day of hunting, his inventory is nearly full. He has just enough space for 1 more goblin, and since it's the last one, he hopes it will be a large one that can bring in more money. The compass indicates a goblin approaching his location, and the timing couldn't be better. All he needs to do is hide and ambush it before it notices him. He hides around the corner and waits until the perfect moment, when he swung his bat directly at the goblin's face. But it isn't a goblin. He just struck a remarkably short man. The man shouts at him in a language he doesn't understand. Jin-hyuk quickly bows to express his apology. This seems to calm the man down sufficiently. He pulls 2 necklaces out of a bag. and hands one to Jinyuk. As soon as he puts it on, he can suddenly understand what the man is saying, and he realizes two important things. First, this man is understandably very angry at him, especially since he just smashed a bat into his face. Secondly, this man isn't just any man. He's a dwarf, a mythical race he's only encountered in fantasy novels. The angry dwarf continues to shout at him while he helps gather the scattered items. Everything he picks up seems to be of exceptionally high quality, but he hardly has time to admire them as he is being yelled at. The dwarf spots his bat and picks it up, demanding to know where Jinyuk obtained it, which confuses the young man since there's nothing remarkable about it. The dwarf appears very determined to uncover the truth. Although it's just an ordinary aluminum baseball bat, he believes it's crafted from a highly precious metal called orichalcum. This ordinary bat is so valuable to the dwarf that he believes no sum of money could ever purchase it. He offers Jinyuk a trade, proposing some of his rare items in exchange for the bat. Seeing no reason to refuse, Jinyuk follows the dwarf back to his workshop. The dwarf leads the bat deeper into his workshop as Jinyuk surveys his surroundings. He glances at the various weapons scattered throughout the space, contemplating which one he should choose. The dwarf returns shortly after, wielding his new and improved baseball bat. Strangely, it shines with a bright red hue and emits a faint glow. Jinyuk wonders if this is truly his bat after all. The dwarf confirms that this is just one of the material becomes stronger and more durable the more you enchant it. That word catches his eye. It appears that the dwarf has somehow enchanted his weapon. An enchanted item is an exceptionally rare drop that comes only from high-level monsters of A grade and above. Testing out a few swings with the new bat confirms that it feels completely different from what he remembers. It's nearly unbelievable that something this powerful could be artificially created. This dwarf, along with the entire dungeon, could be the lucky break he has been searching for all along. He checks the stats in the status menu. The bat is now a legendary baseball bat with S-grade durability and automatic retrieval. What was once a common aluminum bat has transformed into a rare and legendary item. If he could sell it, he would hit the jackpot. However, the bat is already bound to him, so he can no longer sell it. The dwarf added an automatic retrieval enchantment to the bat. This means that no one else will ever be able to use it except for him. In the end, he may not profit from it, but it remains a legendary item nonetheless. There are still many other ways to earn money. He has an inventory filled with goblin corpses that he can sell for a profit. The only issue is that there's no place to sell them without attracting unwanted attention from the guilds. The only alternative is the black market of the hunter industry. They don't ask questions and handle corpses efficiently. Additionally, it's quite easy to contact them. They frequently distribute business cards to lower-level hunters in need of money, so he already has plenty of these cards at his disposal. He heads home and uses a card to locate the address of one of these black markets. The business card appears highly suspicious, but at this moment, he has no other options. As he searches for any sign that this place exists, a man calls down to him from above. Deputy Cho Hyung-il invites Jin Hyuk to his office to meet their boss. He meets with Lee Jung-chu, a loan shark currently posing as a loan agent who also trades monster corpses on the black market. They request to inspect the corpses first before discussing payment. Jin-hyuk brings them out to display. The two are stunned by the number of corpses Jin-hyuk pulls from his inventory. Despite being a clear newbie, he has managed to collect 20 goblin corpses, all in remarkable condition. While their heads are battered from baseball bat injuries, the rest of their bodies look pristine. So perfect, in fact, that Deputy Cho can't contain his excitement upon receiving them. The conversation quickly turns tense as they struggle to reach an agreement. Each man presents his case, arguing for the value of his goods, but differing opinions create friction. As the stakes rise, the atmosphere becomes charged with anticipation, leaving everyone on edge. They are interrupted by black market merchants rushing in to announce that a monster has appeared in the area. There's a rare chance that a monster's corpse can attract other monsters, and it seems that laying out 20 fresh goblin corpses on the ground was more than enough to send out a beacon to nearby creatures. The situation worsened as two orcs appeared, far beyond Jin Hyuk's current capabilities. At this rate, the only way he can save himself is by taking the monster corpses and escaping as quickly as possible. However, it was already too late. The first monster had reached them and appeared ready to tear them apart. With Jin Hyuk being the only hunter present, he was the sole individual strong enough to confront them. That doesn't mean he can take them on, though, as the orc charges at him with its battle axe. He dodges the first swing. The second swing comes down directly toward his head. At such a close distance, there was no way for him to evade it. It felt like this was the end for him, and he was about to meet a pathetic fate. Just as the attack is about to connect, his newly enchanted bat suddenly emerges from his inventory and blocks it. The parry was so powerful that it sent the orc flying backward for a moment. This appears to be another one of its enchantments, the presence detection effect. If that was indeed his bat, then he might just stand a chance. The orc charges in once more, but Jin-hyuk stands more confident and prepared this time. He tightly grips the bat, aims downward, striking the orc's knee and causing it to lose its balance. With the monster disoriented, he launches another attack at its face, cracking its neck and killing it instantly. The defeat of a single orc causes his level to surge from 24 to 36 in a rapid spike. He has no time to celebrate as the second orc finds him and charges forward. This time, however, he is prepared. He swiftly dodges the attack, then runs up behind the orc and smashes his bat into its back. Prior to repositioning, he delivered one final strike aimed directly at the creature's head, killing it instantly. In just a matter of seconds, he swiftly dispatched 2 orcs, demonstrating the true power of his enchanted weapon. With the commotion settled, he smugly asked the men to restart negotiations, suggesting they include the corpses of the 2 dead orcs in their deal. That day, he returned home with a chip on his shoulder. Somehow, he had managed to persuade the men to give him 15% more than the market price. The balance in his bank account felt almost like a dream. Now that he had finally dealt with the goblin corpses, all he had to do was focus on hunting. By saving the black market dealer and his crew, they chose to continue doing business with him, ensuring he would never have to worry about where to sell the corpses again. That's because he likely realized that Jin-hyuk isn't merely a low-level thief selling stolen corpses. In fact, he's a high-level hunter strong enough to take down 2 orcs with ease. Even with his enchanted bat and newfound strength, his current equipment was insufficient for hunting higher-grade monsters. He had only one option left for an upgrade. If he played his cards right, he might even receive some equipment for free. The next day, he purchased a crate full of beer cans and alcohol for the dwarf. Since the dwarf had a fondness for aluminum, this was like striking gold for him. The dwarf could hardly believe that the crate was filled with orichalcum. He took a sip of the beer but immediately spat it out. The flavor was terrible. To calm him down after another outburst, Jin-hyuk offered him some soju instead. This one was different, and its taste was enough to satisfy the dwarf for the time being. It's not enough. There might be something more that could provide the kick he's looking for. Since the opportunity has arisen, the dwarf made a request to Jin-hyuk, asking him to mine something on his behalf. He sends Jin-hyuk on a quest to mine mithril ore. But what connection does ore have to alcohol? Jin-hyuk wanted some free gear, so he didn't really have a choice in what he had to do to obtain it. If this was the best way to acquire the gear, then so be it. He journeyed deeper into the labyrinth and emerged in a clearing within a forest. This place was much larger than he had anticipated. A system menu appears before him, indicating that he has reached the 2nd level of the labyrinth. Now he had the chance to record his location as a warp point, though he had no idea what a warp point actually was. However, he accepted the option regardless. This causes a gate to open in front of him. This portal enables him to travel effortlessly between the 1st and 2nd floors, much like in a video game. With that setup, he journeyed deeper into the labyrinth to find the mithril ore he had been sent to retrieve. The 2nd floor was named Dogs and Skeletons, and much like the 1st floor with goblins, it was filled with wild monster dogs leaping out at him. These dogs were much weaker than the orcs he had fought just a few days earlier. This meant that they were all free experience points for him. He readies his bat and charges headfirst into a pack of dogs coming at him. By the end of the fight, he had slain 25 orcs and collected their corpses. Going by the market value, these corpses should net him a hefty 200 million won, but he can't allow the excitement of all that money to go to his head. He still had a mission to mine mithril ore. He ventures deeper into the dungeon and encounters a group of skeletons. This floor was named Dogs and Skeletons after all. Skeletons are a frustrating group of monsters. Their bodies cannot be sold for money, and the only way to defeat them is by breaking their core. This makes the fight all the more painful to endure, especially since many of them are closing in on him. However, with his current skills and level, he knows he will succeed. By the end of the battle, he feels utterly exhausted. He realizes that the dwarf likely sent him here to avoid dealing with these annoying monsters himself. Still, there's one silver lining to this situation. Killing these skeletons has raised his level to 100, allowing him to change classes. His nukes will be automatically selected based on his previous actions. Given the amount of fighting he had been doing recently, he was bound to become some sort of berserker or warrior. Instead, the system identifies him as a cleric. He continues on and manages to achieve what the dwarf wanted. That's surprising, considering the dwarf didn't expect Jinyu to survive that experience. He may be alive, but he's worn out from all the fighting he endured. Well, even with that, he didn't come away from the encounter completely empty-handed. He managed to swipe some mithril ore for himself as it looked valuable, and then he gave the rest to the dwarf. Having successfully obtained the ore, the dwarf agrees to use some of it to create whatever he desires. Since he already possesses a formidable weapon, the next thing he needed was armor capable of withstanding heavy attacks from monsters, preferably something lightweight that would allow for easy movement. The dwarf agrees and begins working right away. The process takes much longer than Jinyu can bear, so he heads back home to take a nap for a few hours. He wakes up 6 hours later and he returns to the workshop to check on the dwarf's progress. By that time, the dwarf has finished crafting the armor and appears satisfied with his work. It's mithril chainmail armor designed to fit comfortably under his shirt and hoodie. He puts it on. Without warning, the dwarf attacks him with a hammer. After all, there's no better way to explain something than with a clear explanation. That attack would typically have broken at least a few of his ribs, but thanks to the armor, he barely felt a thing. With armor this strong and his legendary baseball bat in hand, his combat abilities had skyrocketed. Meeting this dwarf was undoubtedly the stroke of luck he needed to turn his life around. That wasn't all he had prepared, however. Next, the dwarf brings over a large barrel to present to him. It's the soju he brought earlier. Jinyu returns to his apartment and the dwarf was right. Storing the soju in a barrel made from mithril ore transformed it into an entirely different drink. This incredible result sparked a brilliant idea in him. He contacts the black market dealer once more and promises him another deal. This time, he is selling kobold corpses along with high-quality liquor. In another part of town, the Titan Guild has just finished their training near some newly opened gates. They should be done. A sudden new wave of lizardmen floods through the gates. It appears to be an anomaly gate, and 3 times as many enemies pour out as they have. One of the guild members suggests reaching out to another guild for assistance. In Doyen, the deputy guildmaster struggles to set aside his pride and ask others for help. He encourages his subordinates to stand firm and fight. Jinyu, on the other hand, is not having nearly as difficult a time. He has just officially registered his class as a cleric. Additionally, he was promoted from D rank to C rank. Clerics are a rare class of healers, and it's well known that top guilds actively seek them out. This means he may now have the opportunity to be recruited by a guild. Suddenly, a bloodied and battered hunter bursts through the doors, urgently seeking a cleric. Jinyu raises his hand and volunteers to take on the role of cleric. The man leads him back to the location where the Titan Guild members are confronting the swarms of lizardmen. He is instructed to stand in the back line and heal as many people as possible alongside the other clerics. He wants to contribute in other ways, but the guild member assures him that all he needs to do is stand in the back and heal them. He will be compensated accordingly once the fighting is over. The presence of the healers in the area is sufficient to support the guild and give them a second wind to keep fighting on, but the waves are simply too overwhelming for them to manage. One of the other clerics suggests bringing in a supporting guild to help eliminate the threat more quickly. At this rate, they risk being completely wiped out if they don't take action. Just as he contemplates his next move, he senses a hostile presence behind him. His bat had just saved him from a fatal strike by one of the lizardmen, which had somehow slipped past all the hunters and was now targeting the healers, beginning with him. Only clerics stand at the back line. If these monsters break through, they could wipe out the members in an instant. With no other choice, Jinyu grips his bat and swings at the lizardmen attacking him, sending one flying with a single blow. He informs the other clerics that there has been a breach and that he is the only one capable of blocking it. They managed to get this far due to a concealment technique, and now they are attempting to ambush from behind. Jinhook instructs the clerics to concentrate on healing for now, leaving the lizardmen to him. It will be challenging, but he is the only one who can stop them. The other clerics are concerned because they believe he is just an ordinary healer like themselves. Jinhook, on the other hand, rushes in to confront them directly, assuring them not to worry about him. He wouldn't be making such statements if he weren't at least somewhat confident in his abilities. Despite saying all that, he was still nervous about the entire situation. In the end, he successfully stood his ground against the rampaging monsters. One of them slips past him while his guard is down and heads straight for one of the other clerics. Jinhook chases after it. Then, it leaps off the ground and successfully stops the creature from attacking one of the clerics just in time. His hurried attack leaves him vulnerable to a stab from behind. However, thanks to the dwarf's chain armor, it barely affects him. The monster is taken aback that its attack didn't succeed, giving Jinhook the perfect chance to retaliate with a powerful swing of his bat to its face. Remarkably, he is managing to hold them off all by himself. Thanks to him, they can concentrate on healing without the worry of any sneak attacks. However, that's not the only advantage they have. The lizardmen freeze as a new warrior steps into the fray. Suddenly, a powerful man steps in and defeats one of the monsters with a single blow. The newcomer is Seo Sang-ho, the guild master of the Titan Guild. He acknowledges Jinhook and asks if he was the one who eliminated all the monsters in the area. The C-rank hunter admits he was the one who took out the monsters, but he's more puzzled about the identity of this new powerful man. The clerics are surprised that he doesn't recognize the S-rank hunter, Sang-ho. His immense power made it seem as though the battle was nearing its conclusion. With no time to waste, he rushes off to join his subordinates in battle, promising to properly reward Jinhook for his assistance later. Just at a glance, it's clear to everyone, including Jinhook, that S-rank hunters operate in a league of their own. When he's present, he truly becomes the monster of the battle. He lands directly in the center of the fight. His presence immediately lifts everyone's spirits. Everyone except Ndoyen seemed pleased that the guild master had arrived. While there was nothing wrong with a fellow guild member coming in to offer support, Ndoyen appeared visibly annoyed by the situation. Ndoyen's pride wouldn't allow him to take control, so Sang-ho steps in and quickly takes charge of the situation. He issues orders to the fighting hunters, commanding the attention of everyone around him. With that accomplished, he doesn't wait for the guild members to clear the area and unleashes a powerful attack on the ground, which a shockwave erupts, sending all the lizardmen flying. His single strike was enough to take out many of them in one blow. Within minutes, with Sang-ho's assistance, all the monsters were swiftly defeated. Now that he was certain his guild members were safe, he grabbed Ndoyen by the jacket to reprimand him. What was he thinking when he decided to risk his own life and the lives of his subordinates by facing the monsters alone? He asserts that his only intention was to protect the guild's reputation. However, Sang-ho understands that the truth is Ndoyen was merely trying to protect his own pride. The two share a brief stare down, until one of the guild members reminds him that he needs to dismiss the clerics who helped clear the scene. The gangster takes a moment to compose himself before approaching the hunters to express his gratitude personally, especially Jinhook, who was the main reason so many people made it out alive today. As a token of gratitude, he offers him immediate entry into the guild, bypassing the usual registration process. Ndoyen cannot accept that. He quickly steps in to dismiss Jinhook as nothing more than a D rank who simply got lucky. Sang-ho, on the other hand, does not hesitate to remind him that this former D rank saved countless lives that would have been lost without his stubbornness. He then compels Ndoyen to apologize to Jinhook, which this is already a significant blow to the deputy guild master's pride. Despite that, Jinhook respectfully declines the offer. He refuses to be part of any guild that permits individuals like Ndoyen to hold any form of authority. Final straw, Ndoyen charges at him, delivering a powerful punch. However, a defensive bat striking him squarely in the stomach is enough to stop him in his tracks. The impact knocks Ndoyen out cold instantly. The event is so significant that it is featured in a news article by the following day. The higher-ups of the Titan Guild are reeling from what happened to Ndoyen. Not only was he publicly humiliated by a mere C rank, but he was also stripped of his position as deputy guildmaster. They demand that the C rank appear before them to explain himself. Sang-ho, on the other hand, disagrees with that. Ndoyen not only risked the lives of multiple guild members for the sake of his pride, but he also attempted to attack someone who had fought for their guild. That's more than enough reason for him to be demoted, effectively silencing the crowd gathered. With nothing more to say to the men, he sends them away. The guild master's thoughts drift back to the remarkable C rank he encountered the other day. Before he can grow any stronger, he must ensure that Kang Jinhook joins his guild, no matter the cost. The man lounges lazily in his apartment, sipping a drink as he reviews his expenses. Since he made a lot of money from hunting, he spent more than he usually would, resulting in expenses that were absurdly high. If he had known things would turn out this way, he would have accepted the extra pay that the Titan Guild was offering him. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He has found a much better way to earn money. After needed relaxation, he returns to the dungeon to gather more monster corpses. Hunting the same old monsters no longer satisfied him. Now that he had grown stronger, he needed more formidable opponents. He ventured deeper into the second floor than usual and found himself facing a small army of orcs. One of them attempted to attack him from behind, but he successfully sidestepped the blow and retaliated with a strike of his own. The hit immediately defeated the orc, but several others swarmed around him in the hall. Just a few days ago, he would have been dead on the spot. Thanks to his new equipment, he can now easily defeat them all. By the end, he counts a total of 20 orc corpses, which should earn him enough money to avoid any worries for an entire year. Since he still had plenty of stamina left, he decided to venture a little deeper into the dungeon, and he finds himself entering the third floor, known as the Temple Guardian's Labyrinth. At first glance, there appear to be no monsters in the area. However, the sense of calm is quickly shattered by a powerful tremor that shakes the ground. A giant hand erupts from beneath him, and Jinyuk barely manages to dodge it. The hand belongs to a stone golem, an artificial creature crafted from mana. Its attacks are too swift for him to evade. They are so powerful that even when he tries to block it, he continues to be pushed back by a significant amount. That leaves him with very few options but to do his best and fight back. The golem appears incredibly strong, but it lacks the intelligence to effectively utilize that strength. Jinyuk seizes this opportunity and successfully strikes the creature on its head, shattering it into pieces and causing it to fall. However, it doesn't take long for the golem to begin reforming once again. Jinyuk overlooked a crucial detail about the golems. They can only be defeated by completely shattering their core. Realizing this, he attempts to dodge back and create some distance to re-strategize, but the monster regenerates its hand quickly enough to catch him before he can escape. With limited options to break free from this trap, he suddenly sees an arrow fly in and strike the golem in the chest. Jinyuk seizes the opportunity and delivers a sharp jab with his bat, shattering the golem's core and defeating it once and for all. He manages to escape the situation alive thanks to a random stranger who saved him with a well-aimed arrow. As he regains his composure, he is taken aback to find a towering figure standing before him. Before him stands a beautiful woman with unusual ears. He bows his head and thanks her for saving him. Unaware of the elf rushing toward him as he keeps his gaze lowered, he only gets a second to see her before she grabs him by the collar and pulls him close. She pulls him close for an interrogation. Intrigued by the fact that she hasn't seen him in this dungeon before, she wonders who he is and where he came from. The elf clearly isn't from Jinyuk's world. She doesn't recognize his origins, and his outfit appears unfamiliar to her. She bombards him with questions as he struggles to break free from her grip. She eventually lets him go after he brings it up today. That means he knows the location of the dungeon entrance. She pushes him to the ground and drops her bow. She has finally discovered a way to escape this dungeon. Jinyuk stands up and demands to understand why she is being treated with such needless aggression. The elf ignores him and demands that he take her to the exit instead. He's not impressed by her suddenly giving him orders, but she's really pretty, so he'll let it slide for now. She states that if he successfully leads her out of the dungeon, she will reward him handsomely. After all, as a platinum-ranked mercenary, he can trust her. Her name is Lucia, a half-elf who takes pride in her growing fame. Surely he had heard of her from somewhere. However, Jinyuk has no idea what she is talking about or who she is. She reiterates that she is a platinum-ranked mercenary and displays her badge to him. However, he has never seen or heard of any of these things before. Did he come from a rural area? How does he not recognize the badge or know who she is? He tells her that he is from Seoul, Korea. It's her turn to be confused by the names he's calling, and she realizes that the eccentric mage might have actually succeeded in his dimension hopping spell. She shares her suspicions with him, using straightforward language. A mage from her dimension cast a spell on this dungeon, causing it to leap into his. While such a phenomenon seems impossible, it appears that this is precisely what occurred. However, since it was a dimensional shift, reversing the magic will enable her to return to her world. Jinyuk sensed that something was off, but it turns out this dungeon isn't what it seems. If this place returns to its original location, it could pose a significant problem for him. He asks her if she plans to send the dungeon back immediately, but she can't. Reversing the magic here would be too difficult. However, there is a potential location that could be helpful. She discovered a hidden room on this floor a long time ago while searching for an exit. She asks for his assistance in reaching their destination and promises to reward him for his help. The conditions appear manageable, so he agrees to assist her in reaching the hidden room. They head there and engage in battle with a few orcs on the Jinyuk. He realizes she's much stronger than he initially thought. The arrow she fired earlier was no joke. Engaging her in this fight would put him at a disadvantage. His best option would be to cooperate with her while continuing to assess the situation. After walking for a while longer, they decide to take a break in a safe location. Jin-hyuk had packed some chocolates in his pockets for emergencies. He hands her one to eat. She takes a liking to it immediately and demands more. After consuming his entire supply, she requests even more. That was, unfortunately, the last one. She accepts and appears satisfied enough to continue the journey. Eventually, they arrive at a large room that houses the boss of the dungeon. Lucia believes there's a chance the mage's spell is in that room. To investigate, they must defeat the boss and clear the area. She tells him that he doesn't have to do much at all. All he needs to do is help her finish it off once she brings it down. They open the door, and the monster lets out an angry roar right away. Before launching an attack, Lucia charges up an arrow and aims straight at the target. She tells Jin-hyuk to watch her closely. She employs a technique known as aura to enhance the power of her attack. She fires the arrow, and it strikes the boss directly in the head. She knocked it onto its back immediately. Just one of her attacks was enough to bring down the massive armored monster. This is the technique she will teach him, but first, he must finish off the monster before it gets back up. Similar to the golems, he must target the core to eliminate it. He leaps onto the fallen creature's chest and strikes with his bat, aiming for what he believes to be its core. However, one hit doesn't seem to be enough to bring it down. A large fist rushes at him from the side. He narrowly blocks it using one of his cleric skills, the Holy Shield. He uses his momentum to propel himself back onto its chest. If one hit isn't enough to bring it down, he'll keep bashing it until it stops moving. Eventually, he breaks open the core, and the creature is finally defeated. He levels up again, coming close to reaching 200 at this point. Now that the creature has been defeated, he returns to Lucia and asks her to teach him how to use aura. However, he has already used aura. His Holy Shield skill transformed his Holy Cleric power into aura. To him, it was simply a class skill. But she doesn't understand what that means. Aside from that, if he can use skills like that, it seems he will be able to learn how to harness aura faster than she anticipated. Given his potential to wield it effectively, he may even be able to start enhancing his attacks with aura immediately. But first, there's a condition. She sends him back to get more chocolates for her. Back in the city, Sang-ho walks alongside his secretary, Lee Hyena, as they discuss a new anomaly that has appeared near Gangnam Station. It was detected yesterday, which means they have about 5 days to prepare before a powerful monster arrives. No matter how Sang-ho envisions it, there's no way his guild can take it on by themselves. However, all the other major guilds have been sent overseas, leaving the Titan Guild as the only one remaining in Korea to fight. Hyena will continue searching for capable hunters who are both skilled and resourceful, and he already has his sights set on another individual. Coincidentally, that person is crossing to the other side of the street. He excuses himself from his conversation with his secretary and rushes after Jin-hyuk. He's bringing home a large box of snacks that the elf requested. The guild master's voice catches his attention. He presents his proposal to join the Titan Guild once again, but Jin-hyuk remains steadfast in his decision. In response, Sang-ho offers Jin-hyuk a position as a mercenary. This way, he can continue working for the guild without being a formal member. The rewards are also significant. That sounds more intriguing, but Jin-hyuk promises to consider it only. He returns to the dungeon and offers the snacks to the elf. She happily eats them all, clearly enjoying a type of food that isn't available in her world. After enjoying a hearty meal, Jin-hyuk asks her why she is eating in the basement after they have already defeated the boss monster. She points up at a magic circle on the ceiling and explains that it connects the dungeon to the world he lives in. As a reason, he's staying down there for the time being to study it. Having finished her meal, she takes his hand to teach him how to harness aura. Firstly, she will need to pour her aura into his body to help him understand what it feels like. Jin-hyuk instantly senses the power surging within him. Lucia notices the surge of power in his body after she infused him with her aura. He appears to have more talent for it than she initially expected. The flow of holy power coursing through him is so impressive that she believes he will be able to grasp the basics by the end of the session. She commends him for his talent and asks if he can remember the flow of aura in his body. He confidently assures her that he can, and she acknowledges his response before turning to lead the dungeon. She was supposed to investigate the magic circle first. It seems like it would be quicker to fully train him on how to use aura. The most effective way to achieve this is through practical experience. She leads him to another section of the dungeon, where Dien throws him into a horde of monsters. He faces an army of goblins and kobolds at once, yet he manages to hold his own against them, leaving their corpses scattered around. Turning to Lucia, he asks why he suddenly has to fight a horde of monsters when she had told him he would be learning how to use aura. She explains that this is how he will learn to use aura. Although she has infused a bit of mana into his body to help him get a feel for it, he will need to sense the rest on his own. To achieve this, he simply needs to master activating aura with his holy power. There's no better way to develop that instinct than in the heat of real combat. He's more upset that she didn't share any of that with him and instead threw him into the action without any warning. As they fight, the ground begins to shake and a stone golem rises from the earth. It lets out a thunderous roar and forcefully pushes Jinhook aside. Lucia continues to explain that he must confront a true crisis in order to unlock his potential. All he has to do is focus and try to sense the holy power emanating from the shield he generates with his skill. The shield is composed of aura, so once he masters it, he should be able to grasp it quickly. However, that's easier said than done, as he doesn't consciously activate the holy shield. How is he supposed to feel any aura from something that activates automatically? The force of the blow sends him staggering back. Jinhook steadies himself, gripping the holy shield tightly as he prepares for the next attack. The monster roars in frustration, its eyes blazing with fury as it lunges forward again. This time, he feels a connection. An energy is gathering around his left hand, the one activating the skill. This must be what holy power feels like. The monster pulls back and attacks once more. Jinhook summons his holy shield once more. This time, the shield takes on a different shape than he remembers. The sensation of summoning it feels different as well. This must be mana. The golem doesn't give him a moment to process everything and slams down on the shield, sending Jinhook flying back. Lucia mocks him from her podium. She advised him to master his skill and avoid making foolish mistakes. He was simply following her instructions. As he prepares for another attack, a status window appears before him. He has acquired a new skill called Holy Power Application. This skill enables him to harness holy power, using it to enhance his attack and defense based on the amount of holy power expended. This development means there are now ways to gain skills beyond simply changing jobs. Lucia notices him zoning out and decides to take matters into her own hands. It appears that confronting a golem while trying to learn about aura was overwhelming for him, so she offers to handle it from there. Jinhook, on the other hand, quickly regains his composure and tells her to stand down. Now that he has a handle on his new powers, he should be able to manage everything. He charges at the golem and leaps off the ground, narrowly avoiding another stone fist aimed directly at him. While in the air, he channels his mana into the bat and performs a front flip to gain additional momentum before bringing the mana-enhanced bat down onto the golem's head. The monster falls, but he remains unsatisfied. He lands on its chest and focuses once more, channeling even more mana into his bat. He brings it down directly onto the golem's chest, simultaneously unlocking a new skill known as Holy Aura. With his enhanced weapon, he stabs the golem, successfully shattering its core. By unlocking Holy Aura, he gains new skills, including Precision Strike and Unyielding. Thanks to Lucia's training, he is able to unlock 2 passive skills alongside this active skill. However, she is more concerned about how quickly he learned to use aura in battle. She had expected to teach him just the basics and be done with it, but now she realizes she must see this through to the end. She picks up one of her arrows and brings down a wall. This opened up the area to an even larger horde of monsters. Jinhook is unimpressed. He readies his bat and prepares for another fight. The struggle against the monsters in the dungeon drained his energy, and by the time he goes to sell the monster corpses, he is completely exhausted. He's so exhausted that the black market boss, Jun Chul, notices it when they meet. He looks as if he has just come through a war. Jun Chul decides to refrain from asking too many questions and focuses on the task at hand by accepting the monster corpses. He also mentions the alcohol he sold to them during their last encounter. He marketed them as traditional artisan soju, and since its launch, orders have been flooding in. Given how popular the drink became in such a short time, he could focus on selling liquor and never have to worry about money again. With enough money to last him for the rest of his life and a small business already established, Jinhook heads home to rest. His training with Lucia has left him utterly exhausted, and just seconds after lying down in bed, he falls asleep instantly. Not long after, he is awakened by the sound of a disaster alert. A loud, automated voice urges everyone on the street to evacuate and seek safety. Today marks the day of the monster invasion, which appears to have arrived earlier than usual this month. Invasions typically occur at random, but there is one specific invasion that takes place after a fixed period of 1 month. Quite common, and typically Jinhook would seize the opportunity to catch some low-level monsters for a bit of extra change. This time, however, he's too tired to care. The large guilds will handle them anyway, so he doesn't need to lift a finger. That was the plan, at least, until a notification appeared on his phone, informing him that due to the urgency of the invasion, the rewards for defeating monsters would be tripled. With triple the rewards up for grabs, Jinho can no longer ignore the invasion. He steps out onto the street to see if he can take some down and cash in. Meanwhile, security officials are guiding people and working to clear the streets. The Titan Guild battles hordes of monsters as they run through the city. The security line is already starting to break under the weight of the numerous monsters trying to get through. Sang-ho is running out of stamina to continue the fight. No matter how many opponents he takes down, more keep appearing. The guild members are already pushed to their limits, and despite appearing to have the upper hand, the situation isn't looking too promising. The guild secretary watches the fight anxiously from a safe distance. Although it appears that everything is under control, thanks to the guildmaster, she senses that their resources are being stretched thin. If only they had one more powerful hunter to turn the tide. Her mind drifts to a man whom the guildmaster had deemed promising not long ago. She takes her phone and calls Jinhook. He's in the midst of battling some goblins. He encounters her. She presents him with an opportunity to join the Titan Guild, promising substantial compensation in return for his involvement. He requests 5 times the standard compensation. She suggests that they meet at a designated location to discuss further. When they meet, she offers him 4 times the original compensation, and he reluctantly agrees. With that, she hands him a device that will track the number of monsters he kills. This allows them to monitor his contributions to the guild. If he makes a greater than average impact in the fight, he will receive everything he is requesting. Having had the opportunity to showcase his abilities and receive fair compensation, he rushes toward the fight to offer his assistance. Hyena watches him leave with reluctance, wondering if he will live up to the expectations that Sang-ho has for him. He arrives on the battlefield and immediately charges at a rampaging ogre, shocking the entire crowd. He manages to take it down with one quick strike, leading everyone to believe he must be at least an A-rank hunter. Jinhook feels that while he is close to achieving an A rank, his current abilities suggest he should be stronger than that. He takes a moment to drink a mana potion and recharge. Thanks to Lucia's intense training, he has reached level 200. Normally, he wouldn't stand a chance against an ogre, but as long as his mana holds out, he is ready to take on the challenge and believes he can keep up with an S-rank hunter. Currently, he has over 500 mana potions at his disposal. This means that all the monsters surrounding him at that moment were merely sources of income. Meanwhile, Ndoyen battles monsters alongside his guild members. He realizes that the number of monsters is dramatically decreasing and turns to see a group watching someone effortlessly take down monsters. He checks on them and spots the one person he despises the most at that moment. Orders to the stunned hunters, urging them to stop daydreaming and return to the fight against the monsters. Why was this guy here, and who invited him? Seeing Jinhook brings back memories of their last encounter, where his embarrassing moment was broadcast all over the news. That incident must have been a stroke of luck. This time, since he is alone, there would be no problem taking him out and putting him in his place. With that in mind, he rushes toward Jinhook, hoping to correct his unfortunate habit of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Unfortunately for him, the C-rank hunter spots him far too early and successfully counters his attack, sending Ndoyen flying and knocking him out once again. He's too busy to engage with this random crazy guy. Meanwhile, Sang-ho faces a rampaging minotaur. His mana is nearly depleted, and he has run out of stamina. He contemplates the idea of retreating to regain his stamina. However, before he can fully process it, a voice calls out from behind him. Jinhook leaps in from above, grabbing the Minotaur by its horn and slamming it into the ground. For a C-rank hunter to take down a Minotaur in a single blow, it seems his judgment about Jinhook was spot on. As Jinhook defeats the monster, Sang-ho approaches him to express his gratitude for the assistance. Jinhook informs him that the guildmaster's secretary called and promised a substantial payment in exchange for his assistance, so there was no need for gratitude. Sang-ho seizes the opportunity to once again invite him to join their guild. By teaming up with them, he would have access to more opportunities like this in the future. Jinhook takes a moment to consider it, then nods thoughtfully. He tells him that once they finish dealing with the remaining monsters, he'll consider it. While they are talking, Sang-ho receives a call from Hyena. She tells him to look at the sky. The clouds have darkened, and the weather has turned fierce with flashes of lightning. Something enormous and menacing lurks within the clouds, and it does not appear friendly. It unleashes lightning upon everything, striking both monsters and hunters, causing damage to all. As it soars above the buildings, it's positioned so high in the sky that their skills won't be able to reach it. This means there is no way to launch an attack. Sang-ho suggests returning to his guild to assess the situation and invites Jin-ho to join him. After some hesitation, Jin-ho reluctantly agrees, and they reunite at his office. From that point, they conduct various tests and discover that nothing they have attempted so far has been able to impact it or defend against its attacks. Everything they've attempted to stop it has been nullified or destroyed. They need to find a weapon with immense firepower capable of striking from a long distance. Lucia immediately comes to mind. He realizes that there may indeed be a way to bring it down after all. As Jin-ho departs to fetch Lucia, the executives of the Titan Guild gather to discuss the apparent favoritism Sang-ho is showing toward a C-ranker. The other guild members brainstorm alternatives to defeat the monster without depending on Jin-ho, but they realize there are no viable options. Every other method is bound to fail, leaving them with no choice but to place their trust in the only hunter who has a plan. They could reach out to another guild called Gadia, a large organization comprised of A-rank mages and higher. Unfortunately, those individuals are concerned about casualties, and calling them in will likely lead to many deaths. The other members in the room fall silent as they come to the realization that they have no choice but to wait. Back at the apartment, Jin-ho emerges from the portal with Lucia. He expresses his gratitude for her willingness to help and promises her an abundance of sweet treats from his world as a reward. Together, they head to the top of the Titan Guild headquarters. Jin-ho reveals the monster that's been terrorizing their city and asks her if she can take it down. She confidently responds that the creature is so large she could hit it with her eyes closed. The monster is level 300, the highest level ever recorded for any monster. She assures him that she can remove it, but first she will need a little help. The roof of the building is too fragile to withstand her power. She needs him to prepare a shield to absorb most of the impact. Otherwise, multiple buildings will be destroyed. With everything properly set up, Jin-ho calls the guild leader to inquire about the potential damage to the area. Once they take down the monster, their focus will solely be on eliminating the threat. With that settled, Jin-ho readies a shield while Lucia charges 2 arrows, aiming to take down the beast. She aims carefully and then releases the shots, creating a massive shockwave that pushes Jin-ho back, even with the shield. The 2 shots race through the sky toward the monster, and in an instant, they land a direct hit, taking it out with a single strike. The damage is so immense that half of its body disintegrates upon impact. The Titan Guild watches from the ground, amazed at how effortlessly he accomplished this feat. Hunter Kang Jin-ho continues to amaze everyone. The force of Lucia's attack left smoking trail marks on the building's helipad. It may not have been the time to hold back, but this was far too extreme. Lucia, on the other hand, is more disappointed that the monster turned out to be so weak. It's not that the monsters are inherently lacking. Rather, Lucia is simply far too strong for any creature that appears in this world. Regardless, the job is done, and it's time for her to head back. She hands him the tracker that monitors his points, and the reading shows a remarkable 240 points. With that, she turns to leave, but not before warning him not to place too much trust in others. When there's a lot at stake, people's minds often cloud with the lure of money. It would be wise for him not to let himself be deceived as she has been during her many adventures. Jin-ho assures her that he will be fine. If he notices anything wrong, he will take care of it. They then part ways. Jin-ho makes his way down to the street, where he is approached by Sang-ho and his secretary. They catch up with him and ask how he managed to take down such a huge monster by himself. He politely declines to share, saying it's a secret. One of the executives with him takes offense, doubting that a mere C rank can defeat such a massive beast. Jin-ho reveals the monster tracker, which displays a significant number of points, confirming that he was indeed the one who brought it down. Sang apologizes to Jin-ho for his outburst. The executive watches them with anger. It appears that Sang-ho prefers to align himself with a C rank rather than his own guild members. If that's the case, it's time for a change, as Sang-ho continues to obstruct the guild's future. He takes out his phone and dials an unknown number. By the next day, the rumor had spread throughout the city that an ordinary C rank had taken down the giant monster. The members of the Titan Guild are skeptical, but verifying the truth isn't difficult. Word had spread that the guild master personally offered him a direct entry into the Titan Guild, but he turned it down. He must be incredibly confident in his skills to reject such a significant offer from Sang-ho himself. The rumors even reached those who had learned that Do-yoon had been hospitalized following the events of the monster invasion. He was known for his impressive skills, but reports indicate that he was taken down by a rumored C-rank hunter. If that is true, it suggests that the rumors held some validity. The Ultron Guild scouts choose to meet with Jin-hook in person to verify the information. He may have unlocked a hidden class, which is exceptionally rare for hunters. If that's the case, they needed to recruit him into their guild before another guild could claim him, or they would eliminate him. Jin-hook, on the other hand, slept soundly after the battle. He had exhaustion during the fight and passed out as soon as he got the chance. He woke up after 2 days of deep sleep and realized this was the consequence of overexerting his stamina. He steps into his living room, finds that Lucia has created a huge mess with all the snacks he bought for her. She had managed to eat everything in just 2 days. She had no choice, as there was no food left in the fridge, and all she had available were those snacks. He also couldn't return to the dungeon because he hadn't opened the portal for her. This confuses Jin-hook, as he has never needed to open it before. It's always been open, as far as he knows. He goes to the attic to show her that the portal was still open at that very moment. That didn't make sense to her, especially since just a moment ago there had been nothing there. She tells him to step away from the door. Then he reopens it, and sure enough, there's nothing there now that he has stepped back. Jin-hook is completely in the dark, as he has only ever witnessed the dungeon opening. Lucia has a theory that the dungeon reacts solely to him, suggesting that wherever he goes, the dungeon follows. It appears that the dungeon is imprinted directly onto him. This meant there was a chance the dungeon could have fallen directly on his head. Fortunate failed spell. He chooses not to dwell on that. Instead, he orders food for both of them. She wonders how he managed to find his way back to the house after they defeated the monster. She had cast a recognition suppression spell on it, which should have made it impossible to locate. Jin-hook asks her why she would place something like that. She explains that while he was sleeping, some strange people kept coming by. They belonged to a guild called Ultron and Guardian, and they were so bothersome that she ensured they could never return. Jin-hook is puzzled about why those large guilds are searching for him, so he pulls out his phone to discover what transpired while he was asleep. The first headline he sees grabs his attention right away. News of his victory over the new giant monster has gone viral. A video is even circulating that clearly shows him alongside the Titan Guild. It appears he became famous overnight, and this is likely to create some challenges. He became too greedy, and taking advantage of Lucia's power has put him in the spotlight. The hunting industry is highly territorial. Whenever they encounter a strong competitor, they attempt to eliminate them as quickly as possible. He chooses not to dwell on the past. With Lucia finished with her meal, they return to the dungeon to deliver their loot to the dwarf. Thanks to Lucia's powerful shot, the body was too damaged to use, and they were only able to recover the head. The old man is frustrated with the elf for overdoing it and wasting valuable materials. It appears that he and Lucia share a deep-seated animosity toward one another. Jin-hook interrupts their argument and asks the dwarf if he can create something from the corpse. He pauses for a moment and begins to dig. It's an organ that enables it to produce lightning. With that, he can also enchant the baseball bat to produce lightning. Jin-hook asks him how he would like to be paid, but all he really wants is for the elf to leave his workshop. Lucia begins to shake with anger, and Jin-hook must calm her down by promising her sweets. After narrowly preventing her from shooting a hole straight through the dwarf's head, she heads back into the city to buy the sweets she promised. On his way home, he senses something in an alleyway, as if someone is following him. He quickly glances around to ensure no one is watching, and calls out to the creep trailing him. A voice responds, surprised that Jin-hook even noticed him. Suddenly, a figure emerges from nowhere and charges at him, swinging a sword. Jin-hook narrowly manages to block the attack with his bat. The newcomer is astonished that Jin-hook can see him at all, confirming that the rumors were indeed true. More than just an ordinary C rank. Jin-hook pushes him back and then leaps forward with another attack from his bat. Since he doesn't want to reveal his identity, he decides to keep attacking until he feels ready to talk. Unable to engage in a direct confrontation, the attacker employs a skill to turn himself invisible once more, opting to change his tactics. Jin-hook can faintly sense his presence, but he can't see him. His keen instincts allow him to sense when an attack is imminent. He skillfully dodges and blocks most of the strikes aimed at him, but at this rate his situation won't hold for much longer. If he had his usual bat, he could track his opponent more easily. The old dwarf is working on it, which means he had to switch to a standard aluminum bat instead. He can't stay here for much longer. With no other means of defense, Jin-hook decides to make a run for it. However, the hooded attacker manages to attach a tracking device to his shirt first. Jin-hook navigates through a crowded area, searching for a place to hide. The attacker's tracking device allows him to follow Jin-hook closely, monitoring his every move. The trail leads to a bathroom in a department store, and he follows it inside. He camouflaged himself in the meantime and stopped in front of the stall the tracker had led him to, kicking it open and preparing to strike. However, there was nothing inside, just the tracker stuck to the wall. It was a trap. He realized this too late as Jin-hook rushed behind him, bat raised high for a swing. In this confined space, there was no way to escape. He narrowly evades the attack and a knife swings toward Jin-hook's face, but he easily dodges it. The hunter seizes the attacker's hand and slams him into the ground. With nowhere left to run and the wind knocked out of him, Jin-hook raises his bat ready to swing one last time. He prepares to smash it down, if Spill doesn't reveal who sent him on this chase. Meanwhile, outside, a boy desperately needs to use the restroom. Despite the sign forbidding entry, he can no longer hold it in. His dad reluctantly allows him to run ahead. Just as the assassin is about to confess, he seizes the opportunity he has been waiting for. The assassin charges up a fireball and sends it hurtling toward their target. It went straight for Jin-hook and the child. This forced him to raise a shield, protecting them both. The assassin uses the smoke to make his escape, running while he still has the chance. The higher-ups only instructed him to gather some information, but he didn't anticipate that things would become this troublesome. As he attempts to run, an object pierces through his chest, killing him instantly. Jin-hook stands behind him, struggling to catch his breath. It seems he applied excessive force, unintentionally causing the man's death. While reflecting on this tragic event, a status window appears in front of him, acknowledging the situation and labeling it as self-defense. Consequently, the villain trait will not be assigned. Instead, a hidden job opportunity has become available. After the intense restroom confrontation with the mysterious criminal, Kang Jin-hyuk stood outside the crime scene, still reeling from the events that had unfolded. As far as he understood, when a hunter killed someone, they earned the notorious title of villain. Additionally, clerics like him faced severe penalties, including the sealing of their skills. He truly believed it was all over for him. Without his cleric job, his combat strength would be greatly diminished. However, killing that bastard unexpectedly triggered a class change. Two detectives approached the shaken young man to gather his statement about what had happened in the restroom. The lead detective, Jo Kyung-yong from the Hunter Affairs Division, displayed his badge and respectfully requested Jin-hyuk's cooperation regarding the sensitive matter. They identified the magician hunter who had attacked the young man. Jin-hyuk revealed the truth to the detectives. When the magician found himself in danger, he resorted to deadly magic, using fire spells while fully aware that a child could be caught in the blast. Jin-hyuk was concerned that the child might be harmed, but the detectives reassured him that the kid only sustained minor burns and nothing serious. The boy and his father expressed their heartfelt gratitude to Jin-hyuk for coming through in a critical moment. He felt a sense of relief that the child had not sustained any major injuries. The detectives recognized that the child was unharmed due to Jin-hyuk's swift and appropriate response. Thanks to his valiant efforts to neutralize a criminal, there should be no issues with the case being legally recognized. He could even return home right after the investigation wraps up. To be honest, Jin-hyuk anticipated more trouble, but fortunately, the authorities were reasonable. Detective Joe inferred that the young man's previous actions were significant, noting that the laws governing hunters have always been somewhat different. However, there was another reason for their leniency toward him. He did not receive the villain title despite having killed someone, as this title only applies when a person deliberately commits murder. The killing is justified as self-defense, and it's become an open secret among hunters. If Jin-hyuk could keep what he heard to himself, there would be no need to face the hassle of a legal trial. If he chooses to reveal any information about the incident to others, it would put the entire Hunter Affairs Division in a difficult position. Naturally, Jin-hyuk knew to keep his mouth shut. From the division's perspective, trust has its limits and comes with certain risks. To ensure everything was secure, Detective Joe handed the young man a recorder as a precaution. From that point forward, he would be required to keep the device with him at all times. The monitoring device is triggered when it detects 3 specific taboo words. As soon as it hears the words murder, villain, and self-defense, a signal is sent to the authorities. As long as the young man remains silent about the entire situation and avoids mentioning those taboo words, there should be no issues. Detective Joe urged Jin-hyuk to go home and rest, allowing him to recover from the shock while the others handled the cleanup. Jin-hyuk thanked the detectives and made his way home, his expression somber. As soon as he walked away, the detectives began to gossip about the young man rumored to have captured a new type of monster. Even an amateur could clearly see that Jin-hyuk was not a C-rank hunter at all. He had managed to block a full-powered flamestorm without taking any damage, all while protecting a child. The high-level magician hunter criminal was not someone anyone could easily defeat. At this point, Jin Hyuk's mysterious abilities have become more than mere rumors. What the division was certain of was that Jin Hyuk possessed power far beyond that of a typical C rank. The detectives could only hope he would avoid unnecessary trouble to foster mutual trust. Finally alone, Jin Hyuk examined his new class, the Inquisitor. This hidden class had no publicly available records, and while he had hoped to acquire something like it someday, he never expected to receive it so soon. Instead of simply reading the skill descriptions, he preferred to test his new class in actual combat. He allowed a goblin to get close enough to take a swing at him. He was practicing the skill that had replaced his healing abilities, transforming it into something called hard skin. With this specialized skin, damage from enemy attacks would be significantly reduced. He also acquired a new status resistance skill, which makes him less susceptible to poison, sleep, stun, and various other status effects. Pleased with his haul, Jin Hyuk raised his fist against the goblin before him. Now, he understood why people referred to it as transformation. While his existing skill effects remain, they have shifted to be more self-focused instead of directed at others. He can no longer use the Holy Aura, but he has gained access to the Fighting Spirit skill, which makes his aura more suitable for combat. Facing goblins with his bare fists just became significantly easier. His Holy Shield skill has been replaced by the Defense Charge skill, enabling him to charge forward with unstoppable momentum and an impenetrable defense. Mowing down hordes of goblins with just his body was a breeze. He had acquired a protective skill that enhanced his defense and resistance to every status effect imaginable. Transforming into an Inquisitor had turned him into a full-fledged combat tank. After testing out his new combat prowess, he turned his attention to his other skills. He had gained a discernment ability that quantifies karma, providing a numerical value for a person's morality. Jin Hyuk pulled out his smartphone. He opened the front camera and saw the number 64 displayed above his head. The true value of this skill remains a mystery. He had no frame of reference for what constitutes high karma, so he wasn't sure if a score of 64 was good or bad. Additionally, he acquired a new skill related to karma value, the Judgment skill. With this ability, confronting an enemy with a high karma value would enhance his stats and provide additional effects. When confronting enemies with 200 or more karma, stats increase by 20%, by 50% against those with 300 karma, and by 100% against foes with 500 or more karma. In essence, he becomes stronger when battling villains. This unique aspect alone makes the Inquisitor's role deserving of the hidden class distinction. However, a class that actively encourages the host to eliminate wrongdoers is truly unprecedented. After Jin Hyuk completed his experiment, he headed straight to the forge. Inside, the old dwarf had just finished infusing his bat with the power of lightning. The bat can hold up to 3 charges of lightning, with each charge taking half an hour to recharge. Naturally, Jin Hyuk was thrilled with this power-up. He asked the dwarf how to use this new, impressive feature, and it turned out to be quite straightforward. The old dwarf had caught a kobold attempting to rob his workshop, so he tied the creature up in the backyard. It would serve as the perfect testing dummy. The monster snarled and growled ferociously, yet it could not break free from the trap. Jin Hyuk can unleash lightning without needing to cast a spell. He simply envisions the attack in his mind, allowing him to use it effortlessly in the heat of battle. The young man remained focused, keeping his eyes on the prize. He assumed a batting stance as if preparing to hit a fierce fastball, envisioning the power of lightning coursing through the bat. Jin Hyuk took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared for what lay ahead. Breathe and stay focused. With a single, powerful swing, he launched a thunderball that crackled and tore through the air effortlessly. The moment the electricity struck the kobold, it let out a yelp of agony as powerful volts coursed through its body, wreaking havoc. One charge was all it took to incinerate the monstrous dog. The chains fell away as the kobold's physical form disintegrated into dust. Even its skeleton was charred black, a testament to the ferocity of the thunder charge. The old dwarf beamed with pride over his exceptional craftsmanship. With access to a long-range attack, Jin Hyuk would find fighting significantly easier now. Now that testing was complete, Lucia approached Jin Hyuk and asked if they could talk for a moment. The feisty elf pulled him into a corner and seized the strange pendant hanging around his neck. She confronted him about his activities outside. Lucia had observed that the young man no longer possessed any divine power within him. Additionally, there was the suspicious item he wore around his neck. She couldn't shake the feeling that Jin Hyuk was up to something unusual. The young man defended himself, explaining that this was all just a misunderstanding. He explained to Lucia and the old dwarf what had transpired outside, detailing how he became involved in an incident that transformed his divine power into something entirely different. However, he couldn't share specific details because of the strange trinket given to him by the detectives. In the old dwarf's mind, the solution was straightforward. He decided to address the device first, allowing them to hear the entire story. The blacksmith was eager to tinker with the trinket, but Jin-hyuk needed to run an errand for him first. The old dwarf insisted that the errand was nothing significant, describing it as a simple favor in exchange for looking after the device. After rummaging through his sack, he tossed the compass into the young man's hand. Just by glancing at the compass, Lucia seemed to understand where the old dwarf was sending Jin-hyuk, and concern washed over her. Unaware of what lay ahead, the young man questioned whether he was being sent to a dangerous location. This seemingly simple errand led Kang Jin-hyuk to a treacherous, mountainous path that appeared to defy the laws of physics. Equipped with essential hiking gear, he rappelled down what seemed to be a bottomless hole. That old dwarf had sent him to this perilous place solely to mine for ores. While the young man was struggling, Lucia was just relaxing. She even teased him for having a hard time with the descent. She insisted that he must follow her lead and never stray or act independently if he wants to avoid getting into trouble. Lucia showcased her acrobatic skills as she leaped off the cliff with grace. Without the safety of a rope, she used her hands to scale down the cliff. Jin-hyuk sighed, realizing he could never match her flawless abilities. Lucia criticized him for being overly fearful. From her perspective, he was simply holding himself back and worrying without justification. Without wasting any more time, the elf dove into the bottomless pit, unperturbed as gravity did the heavy lifting. Jin-hyuk thought she might be right. Perhaps he was being too much of a coward and should simply trust in his improved abilities. The young man relaxed his anxious grip on the rope. He followed Lucia into a free fall, deciding to experiment with his body just this once. Upon nearing the end of the descent, he used his hands and legs to break his fall. Landing without a hint of injury alongside Lucia, Jin-hyuk finally realized that he was no longer an ordinary human. The elf already understood that he possessed the abilities of a superhuman. He was merely holding himself back due to old fears. Taking a break in the middle of their mission, they sat on a steep cliff and discussed what had really happened outside. Lucia expressed her concern that removing the device could get Jin-hyuk into trouble. However, the old dwarf reassured her that it would be fine and insisted there must be a solution. While the blacksmith could be a bit grumpy at times, he was undeniably talented and trustworthy. Even Lucia, who despised the old dwarf, admitted that he was reliable when it came to matters like this. She was quite curious about the values of karma associated with Jin-hyuk's new class. She asked about her karma level, and Jin-hyuk replied that she had 82, the highest among the three of them. Jin-hyuk's level was 64, while the old dwarf had 72. Given the difficult life Lucia had led up to this point, it didn't surprise her that her karma was the highest. She had done everything possible to survive, after all. Even so, the difference between her and Lucia had long since become immeasurable. In the world she once inhabited, there were saints who could discern good from evil with just a glance. Jin-hyuk asserted that he was far from being a saint, and she agreed. She explained that the ability to recognize evil exists in other worlds as well. Lucia wasn't particularly interested in searching for a mind for that old man. Instead, she was more focused on thoroughly analyzing the young man's new abilities. When asked about her vested interest in Jin-hyuk's abilities, she playfully replied that she simply finds him entertaining. Recognizing that staying in an abandoned dungeon wouldn't provide a clear understanding of karma values, Lucia suggested they go outside to conduct some experiments. Jin-hyuk feels guilty for pausing the mission for the old dwarf, but he prioritizes understanding his new abilities above all else. As Lucia mentioned, staying in a dungeon with just the two of them won't enhance his understanding. He fished something out of his pocket. Although he felt a twinge of sympathy for the old man, he revealed a return item that would instantly transport him back to a predetermined location in the outside world. As he crushed the stone between his fingers, a dimensional rift opened up right where they stood. Lucia was momentarily taken aback before being engulfed by the portal. Surprisingly, this action increased Jin-hyuk's karma. A few minutes later, the duo found themselves in the heart of the bustling city street. Lucia poured herself a drink while Jin-hyuk fretted that her camouflage magic wasn't effectively diverting attention away from them. She had already explained to him that she used magic to conceal her original appearance and blend into the crowd. However, the illusion of her wearing human clothes only made her stand out even more. Everyone around them can't take their eyes off the beautiful woman sitting with Jin-hyuk. Lucia playfully insisted that she couldn't hide her beauty, so camouflage wasn't doing her any favors. As much as Jin-hyuk wanted to disagree, he couldn't. Lucia might just be the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Enough with the useless chatter. Lucia wanted to summarize what they knew about karma values thus far. Simply put, doing bad things accumulates negative karma. For example, Jin Hyuk's karma value increased by 1 point due to his failure to keep his promise to the old dwarf. In addition to hurting others, karma can also increase through other negative actions. On the other hand, in cases of consensual harm, such as self-defense situations, karma values do not increase. They still lack a clear understanding of what defines high or low karma. However, if a person's score exceeds 200 points, they are classified as a villain. Taking a life within that threshold will not result in any penalties. It would be classified as self-defense rather than murder. Those in power no longer view them as human. Since even Lucia and the dwarf haven't reached 100 points, you must be quite evil to surpass 200. Jin Hyuk had been observing people all day, and he hadn't encountered a single average pedestrian with more than 50 points of karma. They were likely wasting their time in a relatively peaceful public space. They need to venture into a rougher area to encounter some truly high karma individuals. Fortunately, a location where criminals congregate was easily accessible through the city's red light district. Lucia was captivated by the bright lights illuminating the streets at night. She wondered if people weren't afraid of being seen by monsters or anything similar. Jin Hyuk patiently explained that, unlike in our world, monsters don't typically roam around Earth. As an elf, she found the atmosphere of the red light district unpleasant, but at least there were pretty lights. After all, every world has its own bright sides. As they walked through the city streets, a shady barman approached the two and complimented Lucia on her beauty. The man claimed that their bar was hosting an event where beautiful ladies could enjoy up to 5 cocktails for free. Lucia pushed the man aside and continued on her way. Before she could get far, Jin Hyuk grabbed her by the shoulder and told her to wait. The young man insisted that they should stay for a while and enjoy the free drinks. The barman brightened and led them into the establishment, promising to give Lucia the best service possible. After walking all day and encountering only ordinary people with typical karmic values, Jin Hyuk finally found what he had been searching for. He spotted the villain, marked by a staggering 300 karma hovering above his head. The duo sat at the bar, savoring the liquor served before them. The cocktail had a sweet flavor which Lucia really enjoyed. Meanwhile, the barman quietly snickered to himself, having just served those two a poison-laced drink that could paralyze a target with just a single drop. Noticing that the fast-acting poison had apparently taken effect, the barman signaled to a group of thugs he had on standby. The thugs intended to confront Jin Hyuk first, but as soon as they approached, the young man questioned whether they were certain about their decision. Thanks to his status effect, resistance skill, the poison in the liquor was rendered ineffective. Jin Hyuk swiftly turned and landed a powerful punch to one of the thug's jaws. The young man smiled, pleased that he could finally stretch his limbs against the scrubs. He stepped back and wound up for another punch. That struck 2 goons at once, a 2-for-1 deal, if you will. Based on the distance covered by these flying fools, it was clear that the force behind his punches was lethal. Before giving the goons any time to regroup, he pivoted on his foot. He used his other leg to deliver a kick to his opponent's face. One kick was all it took for a knockout. Meanwhile, Lucia slowly opened her eyes as the effects of the paralytic poison began to wear off. She turned around and saw a group of goons sprawled on the floor, taken down by Jin Hyuk. Lucia, feeling confused, asked what was happening. The young man was simply cleaning up trash. The barman witnessed everything unfold and finally decided to play his trump card. Buzzcut removed his jacket. His muscles bulged through his shirt, and he realized he had to take the young man seriously. Buzzcut charged forward with impressive force, but the duo simply looked at him with indifference. Jin Hyuk focused on the man's hulking figure as he dashed toward him. Lucia took another sip of the poison cocktail and asked if he needed help. He declined, confident that he could handle another goon on his own. Buzzcut felt infuriated as the duo spoke about him as if he were a non-factor. He threw his strongest punch, only to be halted by a perfectly timed grab. No matter how hard he tried to push or maneuver, he couldn't make Jin Hyuk budge while holding his fist. This indicated that the unusual young man was likely a hunter. Buzzcut not only looks the part, but also fights like a seasoned hunter. If that's true, he should be out there hunting monsters instead of mingling with gangsters in a seedy bar. Mr. Buzzcut was not expecting to face someone like Jin Hyuk in this operation. Aware that he was no match for the young man, he began strategizing how to escape this precarious situation. That's when our boy tilted his grip just enough to mercilessly break the man's fist. Buzzcut screamed in agony as he felt multiple bones crack and break simultaneously. However, Jin Hyuk wasn't finished yet. To silence Buzzcut, he threw a punch directly into the guy's mouth. Buzzcut soared like a loose kite, his momentum finally halted by the bar chairs lined up behind him. With every goon dealt with, the only scum left was the terrified barman. Jin-hyuk charged forward like a wild beast, and he placed the villain in a chokehold, nearly crushing his windpipe with relentless intensity. He lifted the barman, cutting off his oxygen as he began the interrogation. It wouldn't be an effective interrogation without him delivering a few hits first. Jin-hyuk indiscriminately splattered the bar walls with the villain's blood. By the time he was satisfied with his relentless punches, the young man's fists were stained with the barman's blood. He really disfigured the villain's face, leaving it almost unrecognizable. Jin-hyuk began the interrogation, sensing that this was not the barman's first offense. It was clear that to orchestrate such an operation, he must have someone supporting him. However, the barman vehemently denied having any backing or assistance. There was no way a worthless thug could repeatedly spike drinks and abduct women without eventually getting caught. The hired gangsters must be connected to a larger organization. Hiring them is impossible without support from an organization. Jin-hyuk locked eyes with the villain, offering him one final opportunity to speak. Despite being beaten and threatened, the barman continued to deny any involvement with a backer. Going this far to avoid snitching suggests that the barman is either incredibly loyal or that whoever is behind everything is more terrifying than the beating he's currently enduring. He grabbed one of the barman's feet and began to pull. Confused and frightened, the villain began to squirm and scream. Jin-hyuk insisted that he was merely helping the guy find the motivation to communicate in any way he could. The barman attempted to project toughness, insisting that violence wouldn't force him to speak. However, the young man had a different perspective. Before Jin-hyuk could escalate the situation further, Lucia intervened, telling him to step aside and abandon his barbaric and convoluted methods. A mysterious power manifested in her hand. He slowly raised it to the barman's face. The villain transformed from scared and confused to relaxed and carefree, though still looking quite unappealing. As soon as Lucia's mysterious power coursed through the barman's system, a few seconds of silence followed. Suddenly, his face contorted with a demonic insanity as he began questioning the duo about whether they were sent by an organization called Ultron. He insisted, in a frenzied manner, that no matter what tricks Ultron played, it was too late now. Whatever Lucia did to this guy turned him into a mumbling fool. She certainly made it easier for the barman to confess. However, she wasn't expecting him to go completely insane and spill his secrets so freely. The barman continued, stating that Ultron was insignificant because his tyrant guild would annihilate every last one of their enemies. Just like that, the duo uncovered the force behind this horrific operation, the Tyrant Guild. It seems this situation is larger than Jin-hyuk initially realized. He questioned the deranged barman about what gave him the confidence that the tyrant would be able to annihilate their enemies. The drooling bastard simply replied that they possessed Alon's elixir. This response only confused the young man further. He had no idea what the barman was referring to. A few minutes later, the police arrived to investigate the incident as Jin-hyuk and Lucia slipped away. The two of them unexpectedly uncovered a massive conspiracy that reaches the highest levels, with a major guild secretly pulling the strings. Lucia explained that Alon's elixir is a drug that doubles the user's stats. It requires countless young women, as she never thought a guild from Earth could create something so sinister. She couldn't believe that a group of reckless individuals was actually attempting to create the drug. Alon's elixir existed in her world as well, where it was known as the Queen's Tear. One of Lucia's close friends was sacrificed as fertilizer for that elixir during their childhood. Years later, just after she achieved platinum rank, Lucia went on a rampage, personally wiping out the organization responsible for the drug's production. That explains why she had a grim look on her face. The next question is what they will do next. Since the barman revealed that the elixir was almost complete, they needed to eliminate the Tyrant Guild before it could be finished. At the same bar, shortly after the police departed the scene, a man dressed entirely in black reported the events to his superiors. He wore a mask and glasses that concealed half of his face. From his own investigation, he concluded that the incident in the bar was not an internal dispute. What's strange is that the perpetrators only killed the barman and then left. This bizarre method wouldn't be employed by another guild or anyone on their side. The masked man's next assignment was to quickly identify who had interrupted their operation. He was confident that he could swiftly bring the perpetrators to justice. Now, let's focus on our friends at the Titan Guild. The leadership is currently on an overseas business trip. According to the capable Secretary Lee Hyena, the results of their trip to Hong Kong were outstanding. If their performance in the first half continues to improve like this, they may consider recruiting 15% more guild members. The guild was thriving, but Titan guild leader Seo Sung-ho was feeling unwell. He was stressed about the news concerning Alon's elixir. As he anticipated, Lee Hyena had never heard of such a thing. The association had been working diligently to keep its existence hidden from the world. It would be difficult for Lee Hyena to return to Korea right now, as she still has some guild business to handle overseas. Given the circumstances, Sang-ho would need to act independently for the time being. He instructed Secretary Lee Hyena to issue an urgent order to the entire guild without delay. Sang-ho stated that failing to prepare now would only result in even greater chaos in the future. If the information he received proves to be true, it will be too late once chaos descends. Lee Hyena demanded to know what kind of information had driven the leader to act in such an unhinged manner. Sang-ho understood better than anyone that this order was a declaration of war against an entity as formidable as their guild. He assured his secretary that both the Ultron Guild and the government would support them when the time came. Even so, war carries enormous risks for everyone involved. Lee Hyena suggested that they should at least consult their guild executives to make a more cautious and reasonable decision. But Sang-ho had already made up his mind. His thoughts had never been clearer, and he had no time for pointless meetings. Just by looking into his eyes, Lee Hyena realized that Sang-ho was usually the cautious type, yet here he was making such a decisive decision. He understands that she has reservations about acting blindly without sufficient information. For now, Sang-ho needs Lee Hyena to trust his judgment and declare the order confidentially within the guild while they conduct discreet investigations. The official announcement of war can come later. Regarding the internal investigations, Sang-ho already had a few individuals he wanted to gather more information about. What prompted this sudden shift in Sang-ho? It was a single text from Jin Hyuk about Tyrant's plan to create a sinister drug through human sacrifice. Lucia was relaxing at Jin Hyuk's place, enjoying her sweets, while playfully nagging the young man about his plans. She was relieved to know that there were trusted and level-headed people in the world, like Seo Sung-ho. If no one had agreed to join forces to take down the Tyrant Guild, she would have handled the situation herself. The method used to create Alon's elixir was undeniably inhumane, which only added to the gravity of the situation. Jin Hyuk asked when the elf would return to the dungeon instead of spending all day emptying his pantry. However, she refused to go back to the dull dungeon and miss out on the raid against a villainous guild. She believed that the Tyrant Guild couldn't be ordinary hunters if they were audacious enough to devise something so sinister. Even Jin Hyuk had to admit that he couldn't manage such a large organization on his own, at least not yet. Lucia officially offered her assistance in eliminating those scum together. Jin Hyuk expressed his gratitude for her efforts, even though she didn't have to. Suddenly, someone began knocking on the door and calling out Kong Jin Hyuk's name. He wasn't really expecting anyone, so this came as a surprise. It could have been just a delivery, or perhaps something more significant. Maybe it was the masked man sent to investigate what had happened in the bar. He possessed a magical compass capable of tracking individuals through their blood. He used the barman's blood to trace the evidence left on Jin Hyuk's body. From the bar, he could effortlessly navigate the vibrant cityscape without even needing a car. The masked man began his hunt, utilizing the roofs of every building along his path. Finally, he arrived in front of an apartment building after tracing the direction of the blood. He gazed at the modest structure and couldn't shake a sense of unease. For a moment, he thought the building appeared slightly hazy, but he dismissed it as mere imagination. He also recognized the address as belonging to the hunter who had dealt with the Leviathan just a few days earlier. This could suggest that the two incidents are somewhat related, but it doesn't concern the masked man. He has been given a job to do, and he intends to see it through. Suddenly, he conjured a thick needle that radiated a sinister aura from thin air. He intended to catch his target and ask a few questions. Jin Hyuk walked to the doorway and inquired about the visitor. As expected, the masked man explained that he had a late delivery due to an accident. The young man wasn't foolish. He knew that a delivery wouldn't arrive in the late hours of the night. Additionally, a recognition suppression spell is cast around the house, making it virtually impossible to locate his home. If someone managed to break that powerful spell to come here and pose as a delivery person, they must have ulterior motives. Nevertheless, Jin Hyuk opened his door while remaining vigilant as the masked man forced his way inside. Anticipating some dirty tactics, Jin Hyuk quickly caught the villain's hand as it reached for him. With a cheeky grin, he asked if deliveries now came with poison darts as a bonus. The masked man was meant to execute the sneak attack, but instead, he found himself caught off guard. Lucia chimed in, firing an arrow from her bow as she hurriedly urged Jin Hayek to move aside. The arrow's speed and velocity were unmatched. At such close range, it was nearly impossible to dodge as it pierced the villain's body. The force of the shot propelled the masked man out of the second floor. He bled profusely as the arrow penetrated deeper into his flesh and organs. Lucia poured another shot. She asked Jin Hyuk to step aside, as she intended to finish the bastard off. Jin Hyuk waved her off, insisting on handling the problem himself, believing the masked man was after him due to the incident at the bar. Lucia cautioned him that the assailant was far from ordinary, having survived one of her arrows. As the masked man struggled to dislodge the arrow, he shivered, pondering who on earth that woman was who had brought him to such a critical state with a single attack. He finally pulled the tip out, bleeding all over the pavement. Every cell in his body urged him to retreat for the time being. Lucia asked the young man if he wanted to give chase, but Jin Hayek found it too troublesome. The bastard would come after him again anyway. They could settle things later. What mattered more was the masked man's karma value. He had over 900 on his head, which meant he was someone who kills without hesitation. Jin Hayek was eager to face a real villain, making this the perfect opportunity. He was even considering how to use the masked man to his advantage. The following day arrived. Jin Hayek and Lucia were escorted by a guild car to the mountains. The driver pulled over and indicated the location of the remote investigation site. They arrived here under the personal instructions of guild leader Sang-ho. It's no secret that many members of the Titan Guild still harbor a dislike for Jin Hayek. The troops gathered were comprised of A-rank hunters or higher, forming an elite group through and through. At the helm is the same guy who tried to pick a fight with Jin Hayek back then. It appears that Executive Han Yong-seok will be leading this operation. From the very beginning, Jin Hayek sensed that this mission was about to become frustrating very quickly. The executive formally introduced himself as the head of the operation. To Jin Hayek's surprise, the man mentioned that they had met during the last airstrike. The young remarked on the executive's changed personality, noting that he appeared much more amicable and kinder today than he had in the past. Yong-seo cleared his throat and awkwardly apologized for his past behavior. He got a bit too carried away in his efforts for the guild, so he wanted to take this opportunity to apologize for their first encounter, hoping it won't impact today's operation. Yong-seo inquired about the woman Jin Hayek had brought along. The young man introduced Lucia as a skilled colleague who would not hinder the mission. There was no mention of any additional personnel, leaving the executive feeling a bit rattled. However, before he could voice his concerns, the recon team they had sent ahead returned. Yong-seok stepped away briefly to hear his scout's report. Sure, the bastard might have apologized on the surface, but he still looked down on Jin Hayek and Lucia, viewing them as nothing more than C-rank noobs. It doesn't matter how strong they are. This four-eyed bastard has his own agenda for this mission after all. Lucia quickly recognized the executive's duplicitous nature and asked Jin Hayek if they should allow him to take the lead. He assured her that they would be fine. More importantly, someone has been following them since earlier. Both Lucia and Jin Hayek noticed their not-so-covert tail long ago. The young man decided to let this pursuer go, as they could use him for something else later. Before the raid began, Jin Hayek handed Lucia a radiant magical crystal. The little gem is a communication device that enables contact with anyone within a 10-kilometer range. It will be needed later, so it's best to keep it close at hand. Yong-seok returned with confirmation of the initial reports. From the information gathered, it is evident that the Tyrant Guild is involved in human trafficking. Regarding the plan of attack, the executive intended to ask Jin Hayek for a favor. After their investigation, the recon team discovered a strong barrier surrounding the building. They also believe that only one person has the ability to breach that barrier without being detected. Yong-seok insisted that no one was more suitable to sneak through the barrier than Jin Hayek. The young man openly confronted him for essentially suggesting a dangerous mission behind enemy lines. Meanwhile, the executive maintained the facade of an impartial team leader. He even sarcastically claimed that only the man who had defeated the Leviathan could successfully execute this stealth mission. Instead of moving with the Titan Guild members, with whom he had never worked before, it would be much easier for him to operate independently. Yong Seok was placing all the burden squarely on Jin Hyuk's shoulders, transferring all the risks to a single individual. While they may believe they are gaining an advantage over Jin Hyuk, this is exactly the scenario he had been hoping for. Jin Hyuk joined an elite team of Titan Guild hunters to infiltrate the section of the barrier that they could breach. The plan is straightforward. The magic team will create a small breach in the barrier, allowing Jin Hyuk to carefully make his way inside. They reach the eastern facade of the facility and quicken their pace. This inept magic team can only maintain a small breach for a few seconds, so Jin Hyuk must act quickly and run with all his strength. Without wasting another moment, they began working on the barrier to create a small entry point for the young man. Jin Hyuk doesn't even care that he is being manipulated and intentionally handed over to the enemies. He was simply curious about what the Tyrant Guild was concealing in these mountains. As soon as the breach was established, he dashed inside the barrier and eagerly surveyed the compound. Jin Hyuk slammed on the brakes. He summoned his trusty bat, only to be met with an unusual sight before him. The interior of the base looked completely different from its exterior. The protective barrier must have been enhanced with a distortion effect. First and foremost, he needs to locate the entrance to this enormous base camp. The first guard he noticed was stationed near the barrier, apparently guarding an entrance. If there's a guard, there must be something worth protecting. This was Jin Hyuk's most promising lead to date. He soared into the air and raised his bat, channeling his monstrous strength into the windup. Jin Hyuk swung his bat, and to his surprise, the guard standing nearby turned to smoke as his weapon struck the ground. It turned out to be an illusion rather than a real person. He believed he could knock out a guard to capture and interrogate him, which would allow him to open the door. Now, however, it's entirely up to him to find a way to do that. To his surprise, this supposedly secure facility had automatic doors like those in a supermarket. The defenses were shockingly inadequate, and it seemed they didn't even have CCTVs installed. They must have believed that the women they abducted had no chance of escaping. To ensure he wouldn't be caught off guard, Jin Hyuk obtained an insurance policy from his inventory. He picked up an EMP generator crafted from the materials of electric-type monsters and casually dropped it on the floor. With this, any communication or security devices in the immediate vicinity would be disabled. This is why he left the magical communication crystal with Lucia. As soon as the EMP took effect, Jin Hyuk began planning his next steps. With the entire compound cut off from the grid, it's time to begin his actual mission. From a distance, the masked man kept a close watch on Jin Hyuk. He was beginning to connect the young man's involvement with the bar accident and the Titan Guild. Like everyone else, the masked man has his own hidden agenda. The guard blamed the remoteness of the countryside for interfering with his gaming time. When he finally realized that something was amiss, a red bat was relentlessly striking the side of his face. Jin Hyuk didn't even swing. Instead, he threw his weapon and stabbed that bastard with the blunt tip of his baseball bat. After ensuring the guard was incapacitated, he activated auto recovery to summon his bat back. Jin Hyuk finally found someone made of flesh and blood to confront. The guard's blood splattered against a nearby wall as he collapsed onto the smooth concrete floor with a thud. The man he just killed wasn't a hunter. He was just an ordinary guy, but he carried a staggering 800 karma hanging over his head. This place is undeniably filled with despicable, inhuman trash. Now, Jin Hyuk can eliminate everyone involved in this operation without a moment's hesitation. Upon entering the locked gate, he was greeted by a long hallway lined with prison doors. This had to be the place where they had been keeping all the abducted women. The living conditions in each cell were abysmal. The captives were chained like animals, waiting for their turn to be used as fertilizer for that cursed elixir. Jin Hyuk's thoughts were interrupted by a man's voice asking who he was. One of the cells in this row of the prison was different from the others. Instead of a woman, a man was imprisoned in one of them. Jin Hyuk recognized the uniform the man was wearing. It was the uniform of the Tyrant Guild itself. Mr. Prisoner warned the young man to flee before it was too late, as everyone in the facility had already lost their sanity. Outside, the disheveled team leader glanced at his watch, timing Jin Hyuk's infiltration. It's been a while since the young man entered, and things remained quiet. As soon as he gave the signal to proceed, Lucia stood there, unmoving and nonchalant, while Yansik struggled to understand what her deal was. Finally, the four-eyed bastard joined his men, standing by while Jin Hyuk did all the work inside. Lucia contemplates whether it's time for her to contribute as well. Before the mission began, Jin Hyuk vowed to handle the situation inside the building on his own. Her responsibility would be to keep a close watch on the Titans outside. Lucia must remain vigilant, as they still don't know what Hang Yong-suk might attempt. The young man cautioned her against getting too involved, but that's never been her way. Back inside the facility, Mr. Prisoner introduced himself as Young Dae-yoon. Jin Hyuk asked Dae-yeon why a tyrant guild member like him was in such a sorry state. Dae-yeon confessed that he had been imprisoned for attempting to kill Alan herself. At this moment, they are keeping him alive solely for his expertise and illusion skills. The distortion effect on the protective barrier and a fake guard must be his work. Jin Hyuk was puzzled as to why this man would attempt to destroy his guild's research. The reason was straightforward. Dae-yoon could no longer bear watching his colleagues use women as bait for monsters. He reached his breaking point and tried to take Alan down once and for all, but he ended up getting caught and imprisoned. Jin Hyuk was pleasantly surprised to encounter a reasonable member of the Tyrant Guild. Even his karma score was low, sitting at just 62. The young man formally invited Dae-yoon to join him in taking down the cursed facility. Meanwhile, the situation continued to unfold, revealing new challenges and opportunities that would shape the course of events. As tensions rose, key players began to take decisive actions, setting the stage for a dramatic turn of events. The grunt assigned to monitor the control room was soundly asleep in his comfortable office chair. Finally waking up, he realized that he must have dozed off on the job. She always felt sleepy at this hour, so it was nothing new. Nothing ever happened in this place, so it was fine. Instead of waking up to live feeds from the entire facility, he awoke to black screens. He looked around, trying to understand what was happening, but it was to no avail. Panicking, he attempted to restart the system, but the issue lay with the power source, which had been fried by Jin Hyuk's EMP. Every electronic device, including smartphones, was non-functional. The entire computer system is down, and he slept through it. The control room operator is in the running for right outside the command center. A few of the Tyrant boys were playing cards to pass the time. They were having a great time until the control room operator began shouting about an emergency. The Tyrant boys were alarmed, and worst of all, their game was interrupted. The control room operator informed everyone that the entire system was offline. To make matters worse, all the women have vanished from their prison cells, leaving behind an intruder who has plunged the entire facility into chaos. The team leader divided their forces into two groups. Team 1 would advance toward the intruder and the women. The control room operator, responsible for the situation, was assigned the critical task of establishing communication with headquarters at all costs. Every prison cell had been opened, freeing the abducted women. They are currently making their way to the nearest exit, with their lives on the line. Dae-yoon, familiar with the layout of the facility, is guiding everyone along the safest route. They've come so close, yet remain so far, as the Tyrant boys caught up to their escape trail. With the fleeing women discovered, the Tyrant boys began to swarm in. The first responder quickly recognized Dae-yoon as he guided the girls toward the exit. The absolute gigachat allowed the women to pass and stayed behind to buy them more time to escape. Tyrant boy number 1 grew too eager and rushed in alone, threatening to kill Dae-yoon once and for all. As soon as the punch landed, Dae-yoon reminded his former comrades of his specialty, illusion. Tyrant boy number 1 could barely contain his anger at having fallen victim to such a simple trick. While Team 2 was trying to catch up with Dae-yoon and the girls, Team 1 faced a much more painful fate. Each member wielded nothing more than a flimsy knife in a fight against baseball bats. Jin Hyuk swiftly dispatched the team guarding the Elan production room, employing his advanced technique and footwork to outmaneuver these lackluster fighters at every turn. The young man struck each of their heads with brutal force, using one swing for each bastard. Jin Hyuk finished off the last Tyrant boy without breaking a sweat. Given how desperately these boys were trying to guard the front gate, it was clear that Elan was being kept behind that door. Jin Hyuk gained access to the room and stepped inside cautiously. He looked around and saw all the equipment that the Tyrants had gathered to produce the inhumane drug. They have even gone so far as to hide a massive lab underground for security. Human-sized test tubes filled the lab, each containing women abducted by the Tyrant Guild. Witnessing the extent of their evil operation firsthand was even more repulsive than Jin Hyuk had imagined. In the center of the lab stood a monster encased in protective glass. It had to be Elan, the source of all this grief and evil. Jin Hyuk gripped his bat tightly. If everything went according to plan, he could finish this once and for all. But that would be too easy. Elan must have sensed the danger and awakened. She shattered the protective glass and sent her tentacles lunging forward with ferocity. Jin Hyuk had to move and dodge quickly as the fast-moving tentacles targeted his vital points, forcing him to cancel his lightning attack. He watched the movements of the tentacles, and his fear intensified. Given the speed and force of those attacks, a hit in the wrong spot could spell disaster for him. For now, he can only play defensively, waiting and hoping for an opportunity to strike. Jin Hyuk forced himself to focus. He knew he had to remain calm if he wanted to stay safe. Ellen resembled a disheveled creature with tentacles. At last, the chaotic beast broke free, sending thousands of sharp shards flying in every direction. It seems our boy is completely outclassed this time around. Jin Hyuk activates his hard skin, providing himself with additional protection. He swiftly dodges an attack and presses forward, determined to put an end to the conflict. However, a powerful force emerged, and the attack nearly broke him. This made him realize just how strong his opponent truly was. Afterwards, he steadied himself and took a deep breath, preparing for yet another move. His enemy was proving to be a formidable opponent. He must fight even harder. With a renewed focus, Jin Hyuk unleashes a final attack, determined to put an end to the struggle against the creature that consumes humans. He struggles to take care of it. As he surveys his surroundings, he spots a peculiar object. Al-Rauni possesses a powerful magic stone. Upon closer examination, he realizes it cannot be appraised, but its size and shape suggest it resembles a magic stone. Choosing to seek answers later, he plans to ask his dwarf uncle about it. Meanwhile, Jin Hyuk contemplates whether he should investigate what's happening outside. He reaches out to Lucia. He asks if she can hear him clearly and how things are going on her end. He wants to know if the girls managed to escape safely. Lucia responds, explaining that a man and the girls have headed down the mountain. However, the pursuers are dressed similarly, which raises suspicion. Lucia listens as he clarifies that the man was once captured for betraying the tyrant, but he now appears trustworthy. They decided to work together, and he has become our ally. Jin Hyuk reassures everyone, confirming that they are indeed on the same side. With the situation now clearer, Lucia inquires about something more pressing, whether Al-Rauni has been dealt with. Jin Hyuk then reassures her that Al-Rauni has been handled appropriately and that he has also secured the magic stone. Jin Hyuk, still focused on the situation outside, wonders about the individuals who were chasing the girls. Lucia explains that those people have been engaged in combat for some time now. As soon as the figures in white clothing appeared, the Titan group rushed to engage them in battle. However, there was something unusual about this confrontation. She notices that those in white consumed something, and afterward their appearance transformed. Now, the Titans, who initially had the upper hand, are beginning to falter. Jin Hyuk wonders if the strange transformation is connected to Al-Rauni's drug, as someone mentioned earlier. Realizing the danger, Jin Hyuk understands that the collapse of the Titan Guild would be a significant problem. Despite finding the Titan members annoying, he understands that stopping the Tyrant Guild is the top priority at the moment. He asks Lucia if she can help them in their fight to prevent the situation from worsening. Lucia understands the plan and agrees to handle the enemies dressed in white. She reassures Jin Hyuk that he can count on her. In return, she demands a large supply of sweets as a reward. Meanwhile, Jin Hyuk senses that everything on Lucia's side is falling into place. Confident that the battle is nearly over, he calls out to someone hiding nearby, addressing them as Mr. Delivery Man. A mysterious figure steps forward, cloaked in shadows and intrigue. He was surprised that Jin Hyuk had noticed him. Moreover, Jin Hyuk wonders whether he is the target or if he is also after Al-Rauni's magic stone. He reveals that while his goal was initially the same, it has now changed. Jin Hyuk warns him that he will regret the choice he just made. As they engage in battle, the enemy is taken aback by the incredible reaction speed. This is something far beyond the capabilities of an average C-rank hunter. The bastard recalls the moment when our protagonist blocked the poison darts earlier, questioning whether it was merely a stroke of luck. Despite his doubts, he reassures himself that ultimately, the person he is facing is just a C-rank hunter. He activated his ability, preparing to finish him off. However, as he launched his attack, he came to an unexpected realization. Jin Hyuk was clad in armor. He tried to pull back, but before he could escape, he felt a sudden sharp force halting him. Jin Hyuk was determined not to let him escape this time. The enemy barely manages to deflect the attack, and doubt creeps in as he realizes that Jin Hyuk is far stronger than he initially believed. Frustrated, he shouts, vowing to take revenge and unable to accept his impending defeat. However, Jin Hyuk declares that there will not be another chance, believing this place will be his final resting spot. With all the fallen accounted for, attention now shifts to the injured. Ensuring their safety is the next priority, while a report must also be made. Her arrows possessed a power nearly equivalent to that of an S rank, yet no known female hunter has ever demonstrated such strength. With the situation under control, the wounded are transported to the hospital, and all potential evidence is secured. With the tyrant seemingly dealt with, attention shifts to wrapping up the welcome party in style. However, they must first address a critical issue. Someone arrives, breathing heavily and carrying an urgent message. He reveals that the tyrant guild leader and their most powerful members are approaching. The mere mention of Cho-Won Chil, an S-rank hunter, makes it clear that staying here would be a mistake. The man with glasses grows frustrated, realizing they must turn back just as they are on the verge of defeating their opponents. Suddenly, they receive an urgent transmission. A small group of Tyrant Guild members is approaching quickly, likely their front line. The warning proved accurate. Danger is approaching rapidly. The enemy is drawing nearer, leaving no choice but to conclude the mission. Afterward, a quick decision is made. Everyone must leave immediately, ensuring they escape without delay. One person decides to stay behind, aware that vanishing could raise suspicion. Staying will help create an alibi and shift the blame elsewhere. A false report will be issued to suggest that someone else is responsible. The primary goal is to prevent a direct conflict between the Titan and Tyrant guilds. After careful consideration, they decide that all the blame will fall on Hunter Kang Jin-hyuk, who is still inside. This explanation seems to be the most effective way to cover their tracks and leave without drawing attention. Doubts emerge about trusting the traitor, as deceiving the Tyrant Guild will not be easy. However, the true goal isn't deception, it's about buying enough time. That time will be dedicated to preparing for war. Once the truth is revealed, justification will be on their side. This moment presents the perfect opportunity to strike and completely eliminate the enemy. Afterwards, Lucia questions whether the person standing there is the one Kang Jin-hyuk referred to. Time is of the essence. Kang Jin-hyuk is waiting inside, and everything is progressing more smoothly than anticipated. As they arrive at their destination, our boy promptly updates his friends on the latest reports, confirming that he has dealt with the pursuer. When asked about the current situation, he explains that Al Roni has died. However, another issue needs to be addressed. He requests assistance in making it seem as though the body before them had died in battle against Al Ron. The true reason quickly becomes apparent. A document is presented, encouraging a closer examination. As the contents are revealed, shock spreads throughout the room. The names listed belong to recent victims of a series of brutal murders. If this information is correct, the implications are terrifying. The infamous Great Guild Killer has consistently targeted large guilds. This creates an opportunity. If the blame is placed on him, no one will suspect anything else. Kang Jin-hyuk shares his plan and asks Jung Da-yoon if he can bring it to life. Jung Da-yoon agrees, acknowledging that the idea is excellent. Lucia, still uncertain about the complete situation, seeks reassurance that this plan won't lead to any unintended consequences. Afterward, Kang Jin-hyuk assures them that everything is under control. With the decision made, their next priority is to leave the area quickly. The main forces of the Tyrant Guild are expected to arrive soon, but not everything is as it seems. Only half of what was said about their arrival is true. While their forces are indeed on the way, they won't reach the location for at least 2 more hours. The group seen earlier was nothing more than an illusion. Jung Da-yoon expresses his gratitude and admiration for Jin. Hyuk played a crucial role in the rescue efforts that saved countless lives. However, there is no need for gratitude. The real battle is just beginning. Furthermore, the Tyrant Guild has experienced a significant setback, and once the news spreads, other guilds will not remain silent. Afterward, Jin-hyuk eagerly anticipates witnessing the downfall of the Tyrant Guild. The downfall of the Tyrant Guild appears to be closer than ever. The concealed crimes are far more severe than anticipated, necessitating the involvement of higher authorities. To avoid becoming directly entangled in a guild war, the information must be sent anonymously to the Hunter Association, the police, the government, and the media. Some fear that revealing everything could ultimately benefit rival guilds. However, protecting innocent people is more important than securing a short-term advantage. Soon, the shocking truth spreads far and wide. A powerful hunter guild has been secretly breeding monsters and using humans as their food source. The public is horrified, and officials are declaring it a serious crime while promising a thorough investigation. Major guilds stepped forward, pledging their full cooperation to uncover the extent of these crimes. However, the Tyrant Guild refuses to cooperate at all in this investigation. We then cut to young Seok, who is losing his mind after seeing everything go viral. As if on cue, the Titan Guild Master, Seo Sang-ho, reaches out to him. The Bleachhead begins to berate the Titan Guild Master for leaking all this information for the public to see. Frustration is palpable, as despite all their efforts, another guild is being hailed as the hero for revealing the truth. Keeping the information hidden would have enabled the Tyrant Guild to retaliate before anyone could come together to oppose them. Han Young-seok argues that successfully recruiting an S-class hunter would have guaranteed victory over the Tyrant Guild. On the other side, Seo Sang-ho expresses his doubts, noting that even with such a powerful ally, defeating the master of the Tyrant Guild is far from guaranteed. The debate over the guild war continues, with Han Young-seok believing they can take over the Tyrant Guild without concern for the potential damage. Moreover, Seo Sang-ho argues that innocent people could be harmed, making the situation too dangerous. Afterward, Han Young-seok is questioned about his true intentions. A guild's duty is to protect, not merely to gain more power. He insists that he only wanted what was best. Moreover, he realizes that the guild leader consistently dismisses his ideas. He believes that the Titan Guild has no future under its current leadership and is on a path to ruin. This is when the bastard contacts a certain someone and promises them a position in the guild as long as they overthrow the current Titan Guild Master. We then shift to our protagonist, who is about to have a secret conversation with someone. The chosen meeting spot feels unusual for a secret discussion. However, Jung Dae-yoon arrives as scheduled. Kang Jin-hyuk greets him, observing that he appears more confident. The plan seems to be progressing smoothly, and the lies crafted earlier have simplified matters within the guild. Despite this, the situation is still not completely safe. The guild is preparing to send a team to locate Kang Jin-hyuk. Given the guild's instability, it seems unusual for them to have the resources for this. However, some higher-ups have begun to question the recent events. The news of the murderer's body being discovered spread unusually fast, leading them to suspect there might be another real culprit. Though there is no proof yet, doubts are starting to emerge. Since the plan succeeded, there is no risk of his identity being exposed, but it remains essential to stay cautious. For now, it's wise to maintain a low profile until the Tyrant Guild completely collapses. Afterward, Jung Dae-yoon hands over the details of the investigation and asks Kang Jin-hyuk if he wants to check them immediately. However, it doesn't seem necessary, since they are all merely illusions. Kang Jin-hyuk had already pieced it together from the beginning. With no one else around, he is determined to find out who is truly after him. The answer is an archer and a mage, both skilled in disguise and concealment magic. They may approach him while pretending to be someone he knows. After verifying the details, there is one more important detail to consider. The individual refers to something known as the monster count. Kang Jin-hyuk remembers it being used while assisting the Titan Guild earlier, but this version appears different. It turns out to be an advanced model that improves upon the original device. After analyzing the Ao Rao incident, the association developed a system to monitor hunters effectively. Every hunter, beginning with their guild, will be required to wear it, placing them all under the association's supervision. Hunting in dungeons could prove to be quite challenging. If Kang Jin-hyuk intends to take the pill to enhance his strength, he must act swiftly before the monitoring system is fully established. If his strength increases after the system is implemented, the association will take notice, and even the Tyrant Guild may begin to suspect him. To avoid drawing unnecessary attention, he must complete this process as quickly as possible. A surveillance system like this was unexpected, but there's no turning back now. Moreover, the priority is to become stronger, even if just a little. Without hesitation, he decides to go directly to the dungeon. In the dungeon, our beloved dwarf is furious at us for making him wait so long. He had sent us to retrieve some ore, yet we vanished without a trace. Now, out of nowhere, we return with something unexpected. He explains with an apologetic tone that unavoidable circumstances led to the delay. After weeks of silence, he finally returned, behaving as if nothing had happened. But that didn't change the situation. The item he brought wasn't just any ordinary material. It was cursed, burdened with the grudges of many. Dwarves, known for their sensitivity to curses, wouldn't dare approach it. Lucia had left earlier, mentioning she had something urgent to take care of. Now, it appeared that her departure was connected to this situation. Instead of bringing back the necessary ore, he returned with something entirely useless. He was promptly instructed to dispose of it. Panicked, he insisted he didn't know what it was, but that excuse was irrelevant. His mistake had already been made. Even so, discarding it felt like a waste. There had to be another way to put it to use. Then, only one option remained. Moreover, Lucia's earlier words suddenly became clear. She had hinted that our dwarf wouldn't be able to handle what our boy brought. Now it was clear why she had said that. There was a spot beneath the cliff that he had visited, a location referred to as the Temple of the Dragon. A key was provided along with instructions to unlock the temple and lift the curse from the ore. If successful, a weapon even more powerful than the current one would be forged in return. There was curiosity about whether the key would actually unlock the temple. The answer was yes, but a serious warning accompanied it. This place is not an ordinary temple. It was far more dangerous than any dungeon they had encountered before. Entering without preparation would be too risky. The decision was made to leave for now. Regardless of how far they had traveled, safety took precedence. Kang Jin-hyuk watches as Lucia speeds ahead, realizing just how fast she is. As he contemplates preparing for the upcoming challenge, only potions and scrolls occupy his thoughts. However, he feels that it might not be enough. Before he can seek Lucia's advice, he notices his food supply dwindling and catches her eating what was meant to last a month. Before he can respond, a call interrupts him. Secretary Lee Hina from the Titan Guild urgently requests his assistance. The guildmaster, Song Ho, was mentioned. Her desperate tone piques his curiosity about what could have happened. Afterward, Kang Jin-hyuk rushes to the scene. After hearing the urgency in Lee Hina's voice, upon his arrival, he discovers Sang Ho in critical condition. Covered in blood and barely clinging to life, Lee Hina desperately attempts to reassure him. Jin Hyuk swiftly steps in to administer first aid. Fully aware that every second counts, he pours a potion over the wound, mitigating some of the damage. Though the worst appears to be behind us, he needs answers. As he looks at the injured man and the shaken secretary, he wonders what could have led to this brutal attack. Sang Ho struggles to find his words as he reveals that it was a trap set by his own guild members. After returning home, he attended a guild event, expecting it to be a typical gathering. However, something felt off when he realized that only Han Young-seok's faction was present. Before he could react, it was already too late. The drinks were poisoned. His body weakened quickly, he pushed through, fighting with all his strength to escape. Even with all his strength, he barely escaped with his life. Collapsing from his injuries, Jin-hyuk listens intently. Even with poison in his system, ordinary guild members shouldn't have been strong enough to overpower Sang Ho. He contemplates what else could have transpired. Before he can speak, Sang Ho trembles with pain. Moreover, Sang Ho's condition worsens as time goes on. The wounds that had been healed by the potion begin to reopen. The poison from the party must be much stronger than expected. Jin-hyuk quickly realizes they need to act fast. He wonders if anyone knows what type of poison was used and if an antidote is available. Hyena hesitates, explaining that standard hunter antidotes are ineffective in this situation. Afterward, Jin Hyuk suggests taking him to a hospital that specializes in hunters, but Sang Ho reminds them that going to a hospital would only reveal their location. Jin Hyuk weighs their options and suddenly asks Hyena if she has a car. She is confused about their destination, but he tells her to prepare to leave immediately for his home. Surprised, she wonders if he has an antidote there. Jin Hyuk reassures her that he doesn't, but he might have another way to treat the poison. Hyena quickly agrees and hurries to get ready. Determined to drive as fast as possible while maintaining control of the vehicle, he pushes the accelerator to its limits. Jin Hyuk stays behind to watch over Sang Ho. As they near their destination, he urges Sang Ho to stay awake and hold on just a little longer. Suddenly, Hyena notices something troubling and begins to wonder if Jin Hyuk has seen the car that's been following them. Moments later, Jin Hyuk glances back and realizes it's too late. The same vehicle they had seen earlier is now parked in front of the house. Hyena confirms his suspicion that they are being tracked. Jin Hyuk realizes he can't go home directly while being followed. With no other option, he decides to change his plans. He instructs Hyena to follow his directions closely and take a different route. As they arrive at a particular location, Jin Hyuk gets ready to confront Kang Jun-tae. He instructs Hyena to drive straight to his house while he stays behind to manage the situation. His colleague has already been notified and will let her in upon arrival. Kang Jun-tae, expecting to find Seo Sang-ho, is taken aback to see a stranger blocking his path. He questions whether Jin Hyuk truly plans to confront him alone. Meanwhile, Jin Hyuk observes him intently, pondering if this man is the only tracker or if there are others involved. Afterward, Jin Hyuk wonders why. Hyena is not heading to the house as planned. Before he can ask her anything else, she suddenly shouts for him to escape at all costs. She then reveals the terrifying truth. The man chasing them is an S-class hunter. Jin Hyuk is struck with shock upon hearing the name Kang Jun-tae. His presence detection skill activates, confirming his immense power. The force of Kang Jun-tae's aura spreads throughout the area. This is no ordinary opponent. Jin Hyuk fights to maintain his position. Hyena asks if he is all right. He barely manages to respond, aware that he can't hold on much longer. He urges her to escape immediately, assuring her that he will find a way to catch up later. Hyena is reluctant to leave him behind, but he insists she must go. Understanding the danger, she ultimately agrees and hurries away. However, Kang Jun-tae refuses to allow his prey to escape easily. He moves to intercept, resolute in his determination to stop them. Jin Hyuk throws himself in the way once more, infuriating the S-class hunter. Jun-tae wonders why this is happening. A man continues to interfere with his plans. Jin Hyuk does everything in his power to buy time. The hyena is now at a safe distance, hoping that Jin Hyuk will survive and return safely. Furthermore, Jin Hyuk becomes aware of the seriousness of the situation. Kang Jun-tae, clearly annoyed, questions why someone like Jin Hyuk is interfering. He warns Jin Hyuk to step aside if he values his life, insisting that he is too busy to deal with distractions. Jin Hyuk stands his ground resolutely. He wonders if Jun-tae genuinely believes he would simply run away in fear. Before Jin Hyuk can respond, Jun-tae moves swiftly. Each attack is not only fast but also dangerously powerful. Every strike forces Jin Hyuk to dodge desperately, aware that even a single hit could be fatal. Afterward, Jun-tae taunts him to continue, eager to see how long he can hold out. His attacks become more intense. Jin Hyuk realizes that if he takes a direct hit, it will soon come to an end. Thinking quickly, he activates his inventory and equips his mithril chainmail armor. The unique effect takes hold immediately, reducing both physical and magical damage by half. When the next attack strikes Jin Hyuk, he realizes just how close he came to death. Had he not prepared the armor in advance, he wouldn't have survived that last blow. Jun-tae watches him, surprised to see that Seo Sang-ho has someone so skilled working under him. Suddenly, something clicks in his mind. He begins to wonder if Jin Hyuk is the C-class hunter rumored to have captured a new type of monster. The name sounds familiar. Han-young Seok had mentioned someone like him before, someone who was very close to Seo Sang-ho. Afterward, Jin Hyuk quickly realizes that his identity has been exposed. Even if he manages to escape now, it's only a matter of time before they track him down. His house won't be safe for long. Before he can think any further, he realizes that he can escape even from someone as powerful as Jun-tae. Afterward, Jun-tae makes an unexpected offer, telling Jin Hyuk to forget about Seo Sang-ho and join forces with him instead. The new Titan Guild needs someone with his skills. Jin Hyuk stands firm in his decision and rejects the offer. We then transition to Lucia as doing everything she can to heal the guildmaster, but she eventually reaches her breaking point. Realizing she can't push any further at the moment, she steps back and wonders if it would be best to go outside and discuss the situation. The poison in Seo Sang-ho's body remains dangerously potent. While Lucia has implemented temporary measures to help him rest, it's evident that the treatment is far from complete. The pain has subsided for now, but it won't last. Lei Hai-na grows increasingly worried and contemplates their next steps. She asks if there is any other way to treat him. Lucia pauses for a moment, then remembers someone who might be able to help. A particular short man comes to mind. If anyone can accomplish it, it's likely him. However, there's another problem. To enter the dungeon where the solution may be found, they need Jin Hyuk. While there is a possibility, it won't be easy. Meanwhile, in the battle, Jin Hyuk struggles to keep pace. His opponent continues to attack, leaving him no time to recover. Every hit shakes him, and the energy he had at the beginning is fading quickly. Moreover, he realizes he has reached his limit. Drinking a potion would provide assistance. However, there is no opportunity to do so amid the ongoing attacks. There's only one option left. He must go all in with one final strike. With unwavering determination, he refuses to give up. If this is the end, he will ensure it counts. Gathering his remaining strength, he prepares for the final challenge ahead. He readies himself for one final, desperate assault. No matter how hard he tries, his attacks continue to miss their target. Frustration mounts, however. Kang Jun-tae remains unimpressed, describing the fight as boring. Suddenly, a deadly attack is launched against him. He knows he must dodge, but he hesitates for a moment, weighing his options. His body refuses to move, and he ends up taking a hit. Panic sets in as he desperately struggles to regain control and react. His mind screams for his body to move, but he remains frozen. At the last moment, his instincts kick in. He barely shifts to avoid a fatal blow. Kang Juntai recognizes his swift actions, feeling a sense of pride in having managed to survive. Once again, an offer is extended to join forces and thrive together. Jin Hyuk refuses. Kang Juntai realizes that there is no other option. The final attack is poised to strike. Jin Hyuk wonders if this is truly the end. Just then, an arrow flies through the air, interrupting the battle. Lucia has arrived. Let's take a step back to understand how this perfect 10 villain arrived on the scene. Lucia moves swiftly. She followed the direction she had memorized. Although it's her first time navigating this path, she pushes forward without hesitation. With each step, she draws closer, hoping she isn't too late. Moreover, she silently prays for Jin Hyuk to hold on, urging him to survive just a little longer. Meanwhile, the battle rages on as Kang Juntai readies himself to end the fight. But before the final strike lands, an arrow slices through the air. The sudden attack forces him to retreat. He gazes at the arrow in disbelief, astonished by the immense power it possesses. Jin Hyuk is struggling to hold on and instantly recognizes the arrow. Lucia arrives just in time to rescue Jin Hyuk, surprising their enemy with her unexpected strength. He initially underestimates her, thinking she poses no real threat, but soon realizes his mistake as she effortlessly blocks his attack. Shocked by her newfound power, Kang Juntai struggles to find his place in a world that seems to constantly challenge him. She understands how she can match him. Meanwhile, Lucia stays focused, aware that this isn't the moment for lessons. She must end the fight quickly. Lucia shatters the enemy's spear with her bare hands, leaving him in shock. He struggles to understand why he is being pushed back so easily and begins to consider the possibility that she might be an S-class hunter from another country, as he would have known if a powerful hunter were in the area. Jin Hyuk, who is still in the process of recovering, is equally stunned by her strength. Afterward, Lucia notices that he can move and offers him a choice. Jin Hyuk is faced with a decision. Should she finish off their opponent or leave it at this? Jin Hyuk advises her that there is no need to get more involved. He also suggests that Lucia in the Kang Juntai continues to fight, refusing to acknowledge defeat. He realizes, however, that continuing would only pose unnecessary risks, so he agrees to stop for now, though he hides this decision behind a facade of arrogance. Afterward, Lucia playfully teases him, but he remains resolute, stating that he will remember this day. Before leaving, he issues a final warning, declaring that the next time they meet, both she and Jin Hyuk will meet their end. With that, he vanishes. With the fight over, Lucia finally assists Kang Jin Hyuk in his recovery, reassuring him that his condition isn't as bad as they had feared. To his surprise, his wounds healed completely. Grateful, he thanks her, clearly impressed by her combat skills and healing abilities. Lucia takes pride in her strength, teasing him for finally acknowledging her greatness. Later, Jin Hyuk jokes about her being an overpowered character, which is meant as a compliment. He then asks Lucia about guild leader Seho Sang-ho. She replies that he is resting at home, but without proper treatment, his condition remains critical. They contemplate the possibility that the dwarf they encountered earlier may possess the antidote, emphasizing that they cannot afford to waste any time. Lucia warns Jin Hyuk not to overexert himself, reminding him that his wounds could reopen if he isn't careful. With his identity exposed, Kang Jin Hyuk understands that danger could strike at any moment. He insists they must act quickly, but their top priority remains saving Seho Sang-ho. Upon arriving at their destination, Uncle feels frustrated. Jin Hyuk is confronted for failing to bring the necessary ore for purification. Instead, he brought a poisoned individual, complicating their progress. He apologizes, explaining that things didn't go as planned, but he promises to make it up later. His primary concern is saving Seho Sang-ho, but he must also navigate the challenges that lie ahead. The situation worsens when they discover that the poison affecting Seho Sang-ho is basilisk venom. An antidote is urgently needed, but the necessary materials are not available in their current location. Jin Hyuk wonders whether his uncle might have the antidote. Afterward, he replies that he is in a magical treasure chest that contains everything. Meanwhile, Seho Sang-ho looks at Jin Hyuk with curiosity, intrigued by this place. Jin Hyuk acknowledges the question but refrains from providing a complete explanation. For now, just think of it as one of his abilities. Kang Jin Hyuk weighs the risks of revealing the secret location, but ultimately chooses to trust the guild leader, just as the guild leader had trusted him initially. The uncle hands over a medicine, explaining that it will only buy them some time. At most, it will last for half a day. If they fail to find the antidote within that time frame, Saho Sang-ho will not survive. Jin Hyuk inquires about any alternative treatments, but the reply is not encouraging. A hospital specializing in hunters might have the antidote, but as Saho Sang-ho had warned, their enemies would track them down the moment they arrived. Then, my guy remembers something. Later, they come back. Back on Earth, he is having a conversation with our girl. They discuss the possibility of secret places where an antidote might exist, although none are confirmed. Despite buying some time, they still lack a real solution. Afterward, Jin Hyuk suggests one final possible method. If this doesn't succeed, they will be out of options. He then makes a phone call. He gets straight to the point, asking if there is an antidote for basilisk venom. The person replies that he doesn't have the antidote but knows a backdoor doctor who might. When asked why he needs it, Jin Hyuk simply replies that it's urgent. The person agrees to introduce him to the doctor and asks if he would prefer them to come discreetly. Since Jin Hyuk is regarded as a VIP, they assure him that they will handle the situation with care. Soon, the doctor arrives as scheduled. Jin Hyuk reassures everyone that the antidote is on its way. This brought relief and even tears of gratitude to her eyes. The doctor successfully extracts the poison from Seo Sang-ho's body. He explains that it will take at least 2 weeks for his body to fully recover and regain movement. Until that time, complete rest is essential. Afterward, Kang Jin Hyuk realizes that Seo Sang-ho's 2-week recovery period presents a significant problem. He will struggle to withstand the Titan Guild's pursuit, even with Lucia's assistance. More importantly, following his recent battle with Kang Jun-tai, he has come to recognize his own weaknesses. Furthermore, he acknowledges that he underestimated the power of an S-rank hunter while overestimating his own abilities. Afterward, Lucia notes that he appears to be weighed down by unnecessary worries. Jin Hyuk admits that after facing an S-rank opponent, he has come to realize just how weak he currently is. She assures him that, although he is weak now, he has the potential to grow stronger. Jin Hyuk declares his determination to do whatever it takes to become stronger. The next day, my guy is ready to make the trip to the Dragon's Temple. He gathers 50 explosion scrolls, 300 mana potions, and 300 health potions, ensuring his armor and weapon are prepared. He also confirms that he has a return stone for emergencies, securing an escape route. Before departing, he entrusts Seo Sang-ho and another ally to Lucia, asking her to look after them in his absence. Additionally, Lucia warns him about the severe dangers of the Dragon's Temple, reminding him that if he becomes greedy or pushes too far, he could die. Jin Hyuk acknowledges the warning and vows to use the return stone if the situation becomes too perilous. As he gets ready to leave, Secretary Lee expresses her apologies and takes responsibility for the risks he is about to face. Afterward, Kang Jin Hyuk reassures Secretary Lee that there is no need to apologize, as he is also seeking revenge. He tells Lucia that she is the only one he can rely on while he is away and asks her to wait for his return. He is determined to return stronger, no matter the challenges he faces. Upon arriving at the Dragon's Temple, he remembers Lucia's warning. He should avoid being greedy and leave once he feels strong enough. However, he rejects the notion of playing it safe. His goal is clear. He is determined to stay until he gains enough power to defeat an S-rank opponent. Kang Jin Hyuk continues walking, but after a long time without seeing anything, he begins to question whether he is on the right path. Suddenly, the area is illuminated, revealing unusual suits of armor. At first, they appear to be mere decorations. However, something about them feels off. Afterward, he quickly realizes that they are actually enemies. Instead of feeling fear, he views this as the challenge he has been seeking. As the fight begins, he notices that the armored opponent is more formidable than he anticipated. The figures may appear strong, however, they lack significant power. He then identifies their weak point. He must destroy their cores. Afterward, Kang Jin Hyuk feels no concern for the armored monsters. He possesses the perfect weapon to confront them. He unleashes a powerful surge of electricity, targeting all of their cores at once. He wonders how the metal creatures are handling the situation. Shock and electricity fill the air at the Titan Guild's office, where Han Yong-suk's expressions reflect his frustration. His blood boils at Kang Jun-tai for failing to capture a drug-addicted criminal, and for complicating matters that should never have been so difficult. Turning to his assistant, he demands an update on the fate of the executives who supported Seo Sang-ho. The assistant informs him that they have been confined to their homes and are under strict surveillance. The Titan Guild members have severed all communication lines, including internet and phone access. Upon hearing that, Han Yong-soon issues a cold, calculated order to continue monitoring them, ensuring that Seo Sang-ho does not escape in that direction. The door swings open, and Kang Jun-tae storms into the office, visibly angry. He demands an explanation for why he hasn't been warned about the unexpected obstacles. Han Yong-suk is taken aback by this sudden rude outburst, as he did inform Jun-tae about the low-level hunter. Jun-tae angrily steps forward, clarifying that he is not referring to the hunter, but to the archer woman. Han Yong-suk's assistant quickly intervenes, advising Jun-tae to step back from the executive, but without a care in the world. With a sharp, brutal punch, he sends the assistant to the corner of the room, not even sparing him a glance. At that moment, the bleach-haired guy realizes that this dude is probably referring to the woman who has been traveling with our protagonist. He then asks Jun-tae if he lost to her. The question lands like an insult, but Jun-tae quickly dismisses it as nonsense, insisting that if his spear hadn't broken, he would have emerged victorious. Judging by his words, Yong-suk recognizes that she is a formidable opponent. Even for Jun-tae, who isn't one to complain, she overpowered him and left him feeling humiliated, though he didn't anticipate her strength. Unsure how to respond, he reassures Jun-tae that he is also preparing for her. Along with Kang Jun-hyuk, he reminds Jun-tae to eliminate Sang-ho as quickly as possible. Only then can they fully seize control of the Titan Guild. They know he has already been poisoned, which means he might be on the verge of death. Even if he survives, he won't be able to fight like he used to. All they need to do now is find him, and it will be over. The only variables for them are Kang Jun-hyo and Lucia. This time, the guild is determined to ensure their demise. Han Yong-suk trusts Jun-tae to manage this situation. Once those two are eliminated, there will be no more obstacles. Everything will be resolved, and the position of Titan Guild leader will belong to Jun-tae. At the same time, in the Dragon Temple, Kang Jun-hyuk has defeated all the armored foes and is now in the second room. In the dim light, he catches sight of a throne. Seated upon it is a figure, and something feels distinctly off. Their karma level stands at 0. The old man sitting on the throne is thrilled to see a new challenger after such a long time. Kang Jun-hyuk respectfully inquires about him. He confronts the man, aware that he is not an ordinary individual. This piques the old man's curiosity about whether this assumption stems from his lack of karma. This leaves Jun-hyuk wondering how the old man knows this. Instead of simply answering the question, the old man probes Jun-hyuk's intentions for being there, questioning whether the cursed and resentful burden he carries is the true reason for his journey. Jun-hyuk is taken aback by the old man's confidence, as if he already knows everything. The old man steps forward to stand face to face with him, and Jun-hyuk extends his hand, reaching out with a warm smile. He shows the old man a stone and explains that he came to purify it. The old man recognizes that the stone has been formed by consuming people and carries a significant amount of grudges, but he does not find the task difficult. With a wave of his hand, the old man casts a spell, summoning shimmering lights that dance in the air around him, causing energy streams to emerge from the stone. In just a minute, he purifies it, and the color of the stone transforms. The ominous aura appears to have vanished as well. Jun-hyuk's expression clearly reveals his surprise and admiration. He expresses his gratitude. The old man advises him to reserve this gratitude for when his true purpose here is fulfilled. Jun-hyuk appears to be confused. As he gazes into the old man's eyes, it appears that he is transported to another location, where the old man informs him that the trial has already begun. He warns him not to let his guard down and to give it his all, otherwise he risks losing his life. Jun-hyuk finds himself in a dark place. Realizing that this is the true trial of the Dragon's Temple, he senses someone approaching. Footsteps echo in the distance. The same armored figure from before reappeared, but something was different this time. His surroundings glow, making him wonder if he has been transported to a new realm. Out of curiosity, he asks the armored man a question. Is this his opponent? Will there be more to come? Is this just a warm-up with a real challenge waiting to appear later? The armored figure shows no interest in Jun-hyuk's speculations. To Jun-hyuk's surprise, he advises Kang Jin-juk to prepare himself, informing him that the trial has begun. Jun-hyuk realizes that this armored man is unlike the others because he can speak. The armored man moves swiftly toward him, reminding him that this is his only warning. The scene shifts to our boy's neighborhood, where several guys are leaping from roof to roof with incredible speed. Futuristic black masks and hoods. One of the hooded figures apologizes to his companions for failing to locate Kang Jin-hyuk's house from any angle. Despite their thorough search of the address, they found nothing. The other hooded figure is tense, as if they believe that if they don't find that person, it will be the end for all of them. Kang Jung-oh won't show them any mercy, so they must find that guy at all costs. He instructs them to destroy every single house in the area, hoping they might stumble upon Kang Jin-hyuk's home. However, before they can proceed with the plan, one of the hooded figures collapses onto the ground, blood coating the entire surface. The other two figures realize it's time to come to terms with what has happened. They have little time to escape or call for backup, and eventually they are attacked by none other than Lucia. With the immediate danger eliminated, she returns home. Secretary Lee Hyena asks Lucia if everything is all right outside, noticing her sudden departure. Lucia calmly replies that the Titan Guild's tracking team has arrived. This freaks her out, and tension spreads across her face, but Lucia reassures her not to worry, explaining that she handled them quite discreetly. After overhearing the enemy's plan to destroy the entire neighborhood in their search for this location, Lucia apologizes to Hyena in advance, knowing that if they come in full force, she won't be able to stop them on her own. He urges Hyena to hold on to hope that Kang Jin-hyuk will grow stronger and return soon, as he is the only one who can change their situation. Meanwhile, Kang Jin-hyuk is struggling as the armored man charges ahead. The boys stand frozen in shock. The armored man slashes his throat. Panic is evident on Kang Jin-hyuk's face as he grabs his neck, fearing it has been sliced. However, he finds himself transported back to the same temple as before, completely unharmed. He stares at his neck in shock. A laugh catches his attention. It's the same old man who explains that the place where he died is a kind of virtual space, meaning that even if he dies there, he won't truly die. That's why he doesn't have to worry. Kang Jin-hyuk tries to concentrate. He recognizes the voice, and as he turns, he sees the door closing, confirming his suspicion that it is the same old man as before. The old man reveals that Jin-hyuk remains very weak. The Dragon Temple is a place that can strengthen him, but it is also a site of trials. He had previously warned Jin-hyuk to never let his guard down. Strength wasn't solely about power, it was also about resilience. He needed to grow stronger and try again. Although Jin-hyuk isn't in the mood for a lecture, this isn't the time for casual advice. If their hideout is discovered now, Seo Sang-ho and Lee Hyena will be killed. If Jung-tae shows up, he won't be able to defeat him, so he needs to get stronger now. However, a barrier exists between the old man and him due to the closed door. He pleads for him to open the door, acknowledging his mistake while assuring him not to let his guard down again. He explains that if he doesn't become stronger right away, everything will be meaningless. The old man knows that if he rushes back in, he will only face death once more. However, Jin-hyuk is resolute. He believes he will only find out if he tries, so he continues to insist. The old man finds him quite desperate, even after having experienced the sensation of death. He refuses to give up. Jin-hyuk tells him that if he were afraid of dying, he wouldn't have started this in the first place. The old man finds his spirit to be quite amusing. He grants him an exception to re-challenge the trial. Pressing forward, he finds himself transported back to virtual space. The armored figure praises him for returning even after confronting death. Jin-hyuk acknowledges his past carelessness, but insists that this time it won't end as emptily as before. The armored man laughs and leaps high to strike with his massive weapon. This time, Jin-hyuk successfully blocks the attack with his enchanted bat. This guy possesses phenomenal skill, making it overwhelming just to hold on. The armored man realizes that his opponent has finally come to his senses this time. As Jin-hyuk struggles to maintain his grip, he must concentrate the aura in his legs. He needs to find a way to push it away and create some distance. Summoning his aura, he concentrated it in his legs. If he could create an opening, even for just a second, he might have a chance. With every ounce of his strength, he pushed the armored warrior backward. The force of the recoil nearly knocked him off balance, yet he managed to remain upright. A direct confrontation wouldn't be effective. He needed to strike and then retreat, always on the lookout for the perfect opportunity. Jin-hyuk lunges forward, leaping higher into the air to attack his opponent. This impressive move catches the guy off guard as he focuses on managing his aura. However, he only has aura concentrated in his lower body, leaving his upper body vulnerable. The armored figure deflects the attack. It's as if he knows or can read his thoughts. The armored man huffs and acknowledges Jin's spirit. But if this is all Jin-hyuk has, then there's no need to prolong the fight. He should just die. Jin-hyuk assures him that he won't die so easily. He wasn't sure earlier, so he tested it out, and as expected, it worked. The armored figure predicts where to strike by observing the aura. Upon hearing this, he laughs. He praised his talent while assuring him that the outcome would remain unchanged, regardless of what happened. As much as it pains Jin Hyuk, he knows deep down that the armored guy is right. If he continues to rely on his aura in this way, he will only fall victim to the opponent's tricks once more. Therefore, he must change his approach to the fight. He opens the inventory. He drinks a mana potion and surrounds his entire body with an aura, making it difficult for his opponent to predict his moves. Before he could finish the entire potion, his opponent attacked him once more. However, due to his present-mindedness, in time, Jin Hyuk manages to dodge the attack. The armored man has noticed him as he envelops his entire body in a shimmering aura. He questions whether it was that drug from earlier that enhanced his aura, mocking him for gaining power from such a substance, which can never truly be called his. Jin Hyuk is indifferent to the source of power, as long as it aids him in achieving victory. Wielding the enchanted bat, he moves swiftly, dodging attacks and countering with powerful strikes. The armored opponent launches heavy blows from all directions. Despite this, Jin Hyuk refuses to give up. The armored man now finds Jin Hyuk somewhat formidable, but Jin Hyuk assures him that he is much more than that. They both struggle for dominance. Sparks and shockwaves erupt as their weapons clash, pushing both sides to their limits in this intense battle. The armored figure praises Jin Hyuk for his impressive resilience. But that is exactly when Jin jumps in unexpectedly. He warned the armored guy that it might sting a bit before launching his attack on the opponent. Meanwhile, Hyung-il and Lee Jun-chul are driving through Jin Hyuk's residential area. Several members of the Titan Guild are currently frantically searching for Seo Sung-ho. Hyung-il suggests that drawing attention would only lead to trouble. Though Lee Jun-chul advises him not to act recklessly and raise suspicion, he asks him to wait a moment and just watch as he has a plan. Unexpectedly, he pulls out his phone and calls Seo Sang-ho's secretary. Lee Hyena reached out to ask if she had heard anything from Hunter Jin Hyuk about him. She remembers that he was the one who introduced our son to the doctor. Jun-chul then asks about Sang-ho. She reassures him that Sang-ho is receiving excellent treatment and is safe. Staying calm, he informs her that he is near their boys' home and notices that Titan Guild members are swarming the area, indicating that the guild master is present. If this continues, by the time guild leader Sang-ho recovers, he will have to confront a Titan Guild blockade right outside his house. To address the issue, Jun-chul proposes meeting in person to discuss a solution. Back at the Dragon's Temple, the armored guy is surprisingly unscathed, even after taking that powerful, mind-blowing hit. The opponent mocks him for standing there in disbelief and taunts him to show what he has left. Jin Hyuk can't believe that the lightning didn't work. He admits that he has no more secrets, so they should wager everything on this fight to the death. The opponent assures him that they will play along and deliver a powerful strike. He radiates an aura of power. Meanwhile, Jin Hyuk grips his bat tightly as he notices divine energy radiating from his opponent. Mockingly, he calls him a paladin. The armored figure proudly responds that he is not a paladin, but something very close. He then confirms with Jin Hyuk to see if he is ready. Jin Hyuk stands there unfazed, having been ready for some time. As the man lunges forward, Jin Hyuk realizes that fancy tricks won't suffice. He needs a full-force strike. Channeling every ounce of aura within him, he prepares to block the divine energy. He knows that if he retreats, it will be the end. The armored man recognizes that this situation is different from before. Jin is concentrating all his aura into a single point to amplify its power. Truly betting everything on this one opportunity. The opponent pushes him while attacking, causing him to stumble as his aura begins to scatter. Though the armored man promises him he won't be able to defeat him with just that, the battle has finally reached its peak as the armored warrior lunges forward. Their weapons clash with a resounding impact. Jin Hyuk is grappling with the overwhelming pressure weighing heavily on him. Despite his determination to persevere, he is forced back to the ground. He plants his bat on the ground to steady himself. His body trembled with exhaustion. He managed to block the attack, but his aura was depleted, leaving him with no energy to move. The armored man wonders if this is truly the extent of his power. Holding up his weapon, he points out that in the end, all Jin Hyuk has done is break this iron sword. A broken iron sword can easily be replaced by an aura blade. Jin appears completely drained, leaving us to wonder how he will confront the armored man. He warns him that if he has no tricks left, the challenge will end here. Jin Hyuk pants heavily as he tells the armored man that he talks too much and needs to focus on the fight. He provokes him to kill him already, stating that he has given it his all and has no regrets. Though he assures him that even if he dies here, he won't actually die, he will continue to challenge himself repeatedly in order to become stronger. The armored figure reveals that the real trial is over, but clarifies the misunderstanding. No one claimed this trial was about defeating the armored man. He is both the examiner and the judge. The real trial is whether he can earn the armored man's approval. Jin Hyuk's eyes shine with hope that he might be accepted. Fortunately, the guy actually passes him, noting that he still has a lot to improve. In an instant, the armored figure transforms back into the old man sitting on the throne. It turns out he was the one fighting all along. The old man praises Jin Hyuk's remarkable potential, but advises him to work on his personality, noting that recklessness and confidence are not the same. Nevertheless, he is impressed by how Jin Hyuk gave it his all until the very end. When Jin Hyuk recognizes the old man, he tries to interrupt, but the elderly figure pokes his head out and gestures for him to remain silent. And as he sought to learn how to grow stronger, the old man explains, his aura is a power rooted in divine energy, making the method straightforward. He must connect with the divine, so the old man places his hand on his head, revealing that he has taken a liking to him, so he should use the gift he is about to bestow wisely. Before Jin Hyuk could fully grasp the situation, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. Panic is evident on his face as he spots a giant dragon. The dragon reassures him not to be afraid, explaining that he was brought here to receive power from the one who has recognized him. The challenger who has passed the trial will, from this moment on, be imbued with the power of the divine. Suddenly, streams of energy surge toward Jin Hyuk. Therefore, the dragon insists that he accept it. This is the grave of a god who looks favorably upon him. Confusion and fear spread across his face, but it couldn't conceal the truth. From this moment on, divine power would be with Jin Hyuk. Lee Jong-chul has arrived at Jin Hyuk's home. Lucia sits there anxiously, waiting for Jin Hyuk, who is late. Worried expressions fill her face as her mind races with questions. Has something gone wrong? Just as negative thoughts begin to overwhelm her mind, she suddenly feels a strange shift in the air. She turns quickly and opens the gate, revealing the entrance to the dungeon. This means Jin Hyuk has succeeded. She examines the gate and is shocked to feel a powerful aura emanating from beyond it. Finally, footsteps can be heard approaching the gate. Jin Hyuk enters the game, leaving Lucia stunned. The realization hits her. Is this coming from him? It couldn't be. How is this even possible? She is in utter disbelief, yet unaware of her own shock. Jin Hyuk asks her why she looks so shocked. She hesitates, her mind racing with countless questions. What happened there? Has he truly passed all the trials of the Dragon's Temple? Did he really confront each challenge and emerge unscathed? When Jin Hyuk remains silent, she angrily draws her weapon to attack him, calling him a reckless idiot. Did he not realize the consequences of his actions? What if something had gone awry? She warned him not to be greedy and to back out in time. However, before her attack could land, Jin Hyuk blocked it with divine energy, asserting that he had no choice if he wanted to grow stronger. Had he not taken this action, he wouldn't have acquired this power. Lucia clenches her fists, coming to the realization that he never listens. He has certainly gotten stronger, but she still advises him to be cautious. If something were to happen to him, she wouldn't be able to go home either. However, Jin Hyuk assures her not to worry, promising that nothing like that will happen again. In that case, she decides to leave this place to him now. Confused, Jin Hyuk asks if she is heading back to the dungeon. She informs him that she needs to get some rest as well. He appears more than capable of handling things here now. As Lucia turns to leave, Jin Hyuk expresses his gratitude. Lucia tells him not to mention it, explaining that more than doing it for him, she did it for herself. He didn't want the dungeon to be ruined if he died. She also reminds him that nothing in life is free, and the boss room with the magic circle still requires attention. He will be staying there for a while, so he should bring her a bunch of sweets as payment. She has one more thing to say. Once she returns to the dungeon, the magic that suppresses perception will soon fade. When that happens, the Titan Guild will discover this place and come after it. Before they discover the truth, he could devise a plan. Then, she slips into the shadows of the dungeon. He then enters the lounge and greets the secretary. Meanwhile, Lee Jong-chul is taken aback to see our boy there. The secretary's face lights up with happiness upon seeing him. Jin Hyuk then checks to see if everything was all right while he was away. Hyena informs him that Seo Sang-ho is recovering well and that they have dealt with the pursuers. While that's a small relief, Jin Hyuk has something else he wants to find out. Lee Jong-chul is here because he couldn't reach him by phone, so he decided to come and see him in person. Without a moment's hesitation, Jong-chul makes an unexpected proposal. He wants to form a guild with Jin Hyuk. Before he could respond, Lee Hee-na interrupted, sensing he wasn't about to propose a way to get them out of this situation. Jung Cho urged everyone to calm down and listen to him. He speaks realistically. Even if Seo Sang-ho recovers, he won't be able to return to the Titan Guild. The absence of anyone coming to rescue him is evidence of that. He understands that the group has already decayed beyond repair, and something that is rotten cannot be salvaged. Therefore, they need a new foundation, and he plans to establish a new framework with Lee Hee-na at its core, along with Kang Jin-hyuk. He pulls out his phone and asks him to review the material he has prepared first. He can manage the personal resources needed to build a guild, including the physical assets available, the talented individuals he has scouted, and the facilities at their disposal. Lee Hee-na is quite impressed by the level of preparation, but even with a guild of this size, they cannot compete with the Titan Guild. Even with all of this, can they truly stand up to the Titan Guild? More importantly, how will they confront Kang Jun-tae? Jung Chol has prepared a countermeasure for that as well, but he needs one guarantee that Jin-hyuk can defeat Kang Jun-tae. Jin-hyuk wonders why he was chosen instead of Seo Sang-ho. Jung Chol knows it will take time for him to recover enough to fight effectively, and by the time he is ready, they will have already missed their opportunity. He heard that our boy fought Kang Jun-tae and survived. If that's true, then his plan could effectively resolve the current situation. If that rumor is false, they will act as if this conversation never took place. As long as our boy is strong enough to take on Kang Jun-tae, the plan remains viable. If that's the case, Jun-kal is ready to take on everything for our boy. This prompts our boy to smirk, eager to hear the plan first, as his response will depend on it. He has been asked to share his thoughts. Meanwhile, Tyrant Guild leader Jo Won-chol is overpowering the men of the Titan Guild, demanding to know their whereabouts while barging in without fear. Recently, public sentiment has turned against them following the Ao Raon incident, and he believes they should lay low for a while. During that time, Titans have been targeting the territory of the Tyrant Guild. If they want to pick a fight, Wocho will tear them all to shreds, every last one of them. Back at Jin-hyuk's house, Jun-chol's plan is to draw the Tyrant Guild into the conflict. It's a strategy of fighting fire with fire. The Tyrant Guild is a formidable force, rivaling Titan, and is led by Jo Won-chol, an S-class hunter. They are capable of going toe-to-toe with Titan. Lee Hee-na reminds them that the guild is already in chaos following the Al-Ron incident. Would they truly be willing to go to war in such a state? However, Jun-chol confidently replies that getting them to fight is easier than she thinks. Recently, Titan has been expanding its territory, much of which originally belonged to the Tyrant Guild. Other guilds have targeted it as well, but Titan has gone overboard. If they give the Tyrant Guild any reason, they would strike Titan immediately. Lee Hee-na and our protagonist exchange knowing glances, preparing to unveil their trump card. Meanwhile, Jung Cho is confused and has no idea what is happening, so he brings up the Ao Raon incident involving the Tyrant Guild. They are the ones who leaked the dark secrets. The dots finally connect, and Jung Ko understands why Titan acted as if they already knew everything. This provides a compelling reason for the Tyrant Guild to pursue Titan immediately. As a third party, Jung Cho, Jin-hyuk, and Lee Hee-na plan to exploit the chaos between the two guilds to eliminate Titan's top leaders, Han Young-suk and Kang Jun-tae. This strategy is the brainchild of Jung Cho. A smirk spreads across Jin-hyuk's face, knowing he is definitely taking care of things for Jung Cho. This also confirms the start of a new guild. Inspired by mythology, Jin-hyuk chose to name it after the temple of the gods who overthrew the Titans, calling it Pantheon. Both Jun-chol and Lee Hee-na appreciate the name because its meaning resonates with them. Now they need to get moving. There's no reason to delay any longer. Jun-cho asks Secretary Lee to leak the information to Tyrant, and also to check if there is anyone in Titan who might be willing to defect to their side. Jun-chol takes it upon himself to gather the necessary supplies, but he has a specific task in mind for Kang Jin-hyuk to handle. Guild leader Seo Sang-ho is unable to take any action for now, as the pursuit is expected to cease once the two guilds engage in battle. However, is there a way to completely divert their attention in the meantime? If so, Jin-hyuk may have a plan. Meanwhile, in the residential area where Jin-hyuk lives, the Titan Guild's members have found Lee Hee-na and Jin-hyuk. According to them, they have strong feelings about Sector D. Meanwhile, Jung Dae-yoon stands on a rooftop, surveying the situation below. Jin-hyuk acknowledges his efforts, thanking him for buying them some time. Dae-yoon, pleased that he could help, recalls something Jin-hyuk mentioned earlier. the possibility of a rebellion within the Titan Guild. Curious, he asked for more details, prompting Jin-hik to explain that Han-young Seok attempted to oust Seo Sang-ho. That is why guild leader Seo is here. He requested assistance, and Jin-hik agreed to help. This is why Titan's goons are frantically hunting them down. He informs Da-yoon that he nearly got killed by Kang Jun-tae. This freaks Da-yoon out, but Jin-hyuk assures him that he can handle the situation now. However, the real reason Jin-hyuk called Da-yoon here is to ask if he is willing to join the new guild they are forming. At the Tyrant Guild's branch 3, Jo Won-chul learns that the Titan Guild has not only killed Alran, but has also leaked the incident to the media. His assistant informs him that Seo Sang-ho's secretary was the one who shared the information. She even mentioned that she no longer cares about the situation since he is leaving the guild anyway and is simply after money. The report states that night, Titan infiltrated the location to steal the artifact. When Al Rand died, they concealed the truth by leaking the story to the press. Upon hearing this, Jo Won-chul's body trembles with anger as he clenches his fists and grits his teeth. He refuses to stand by and let things unfold as they may. He instructs his assistant to gather everyone who can be summoned immediately, as the situation has reached this point. The Tyrant Guild will be the first to strike, having officially declared war on the Titan Guild. At the Titan Guild's office, one of the goons bursts through the gate, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling as the tension is evident on his face. He informs Jun Ta and Han Yong-suk that the Tyrant Guild has just invaded their territory. Yong-suk wonders if they are seeking revenge for losing their territory, but the goon insists that is not the case. The guildmaster, Jo Won-chul, personally led the attack. Additionally, he has officially declared war against the Titans. Upon hearing this, Yong-suk stands up in shock, his jaw dropping and his eyes widening in disbelief. He panics and demands to know why he wasn't informed earlier. Without wasting a moment, he urgently asks where Won-chul is, prompting the goon to quickly inform him that their men have already been dispatched to stop him. Meanwhile, Won-chul is filled with rage. He has been causing harm to all the men who come near. To everyone's surprise, he threw a bus with nothing but his bare hands. This startled the goon, causing him to step back. They attempt to surround him, but before they can react, he disappears. In the blink of an eye, he reappears far away. He sped away, his speed surpassing their wildest beliefs. All the men keep losing. The squad that was sent out is not returning, and it turns out they are all dead, making it difficult to track Jo Won-chul's movements. In the office, Yong-suk is panicking while Jun Tai smirks. He sensed that something was wrong. It was far too quiet, and there was no way Jo Won-chul would accept the beating without putting up a fight. Observing Jun Tai's behavior, Yong-suk angrily questions whether this is amusing, expressing his frustration that, at this rate, both of them could end up dead. He proposes reporting the situation to the association to put a stop to it. The goon hesitantly informs him that the association is already aware of the circumstances. However, all they have done is broadcast a warning, indicating that they have no intention of intervening further. Jun-tae understands that they would never intervene in a fight. This presents a perfect opportunity for them to allow the unruly big guilds to weaken one another. Listening to all of this, Yong-suk orders him to change the approach and request intervention from the association, emphasizing that civilians could get hurt. The goon narrows his face, apologizing and admitting that it won't work either. In the residential area of District 9, announcements are being made regarding the battle between the Titan and Tyrant guilds. Residents in the surrounding areas are urged to evacuate to a safe location. The guild members are indifferent to the civilians, focused solely on their own interests. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Jin-hyuk arrives at the scene. A small child cries as her mother remains trapped in an injured state inside the car. She is on the verge of being attacked. However, Jin-hyuk comes to her rescue. Jin-hyuk advises Lee Hai against evacuating the civilians to a safe location and urges all guild members to prioritize the protection of civilians above all else. The news has been announced regarding the guild pantheon's first mission. The goal is to protect civilians at all costs. When the news about the new guild spreads quickly, Yong-suk wonders whose guild this is, as he has never heard of it before. Jun-tae suspects that an unknown guild is trying to seize this opportunity to establish their reputation, as many mid-tier guilds would eagerly take advantage of such a chance. More importantly, they must confront the tyrants. Suddenly, Yong-suk asks him to wait, claiming that those protecting the civilians appear to be connected to Seo Sang-ho or Jin-hyuk. Jun-tae doesn't take it seriously. Something about the name Pantheon bothers Yong-suk. He is aware that in Greek mythology, the Pantheon was the temple of the deities who overthrew the Titans, suggesting that they chose the name to specifically target them. This makes sense to Juntai, as appearing at this moment also raises suspicion. The tyrant's declaration of war and their sudden attack, along with the timing, seem too perfectly orchestrated. They have come to the realization that either Seal Sang-ho or Jin Haeuk must have been supporting Tyrant from the shadows. He receives a call immediately. One of his men reports on Zhou Wanchul's movements, indicating that, based on his current trajectory, he appears to be heading directly for their guild headquarters. Yong-suk's expression grows somber. He shares this news with Juntai. Having reached this point, they decide to settle matters once and for all. He confirms with Juntai whether he can take down Wanchul. Juntai's eyes blaze with rage and an indescribable intensity as he assures Yong-suk that Wanchul is heading straight into his own grave, and this place will become his tomb. The clash between the Tyrant and Titan Guild intensifies. The members of the Tyrant Guild come to the realization that while the Titan Guild is relatively weak, they are still outnumbered. The Titan Guild members engage in their underhanded tactics by casting fire spells, which creates panic among the civilians. Though Junchul assures them that his hunters will protect them, he urges that they take this opportunity to evacuate. Once they arrive, they should be safe. If they ever find themselves caught in a guild war today, his guild will always be there to support them. He urges them to remember the guild that stands for the people pantheon. All the civilians look at him in confusion, as even in such a serious situation, he is promoting the guild. At the same time, Hung-il informs Junchul that an association officer has arrived. The association officer confirms with Junchul that he is the same person who helped evacuate the civilians and expresses his gratitude. They narrowly avoided a major disaster, but he assures them that he will take it from here. The officer is surprised to see a guild that genuinely cares about the civilians and inquires about its name. Junchul feels honored by the association's perception and reveals that they are a newly formed guild called Pantheon. Junchul knows that the association arrived late and is now attempting to smooth things over with empty words. They have somewhat succeeded in their goal of improving the guild's public image among civilians, and now even the association views them in a positive light. Junchul and Hung-il have fulfilled their roles. Now, the responsibility lies with Guildmaster Kang Jin-hyuk. Afterward, Hung-il, Junju, and Lee Hee-na meet with Jin-hyuk, who explains that since this conflict involves two guilds, the scale will be massive. Additionally, because they are fighting in the city, civilians will undoubtedly be caught up in it. For now, the Pantheon Guild's top priority is to protect civilians and establish a positive image for themselves. Junchul promises they are doing their best to protect the civilians, but ultimately, they need a way to end the war. In response, Jin-hyuk assures him not to worry about that aspect and calls for an update on Zhou Wanchul's movements. As expected, Zhou Wanchul is heading straight for the Titan Guild. Jin-hyuk decides to move forward. Out of curiosity, the woman questions the necessity of tracking Wanchul's movements. In response, our protagonist explains that if that piece of work and Kang Juntai fight in the city, the damage would be catastrophic, and one of them is certain to die. My guy plans to take both of them down at the same time. Haina stuns as her mind races with thoughts of, is he serious right now? She knows he has gotten stronger, but taking on two S-hunters alone is a challenge. Jin-hyuk takes his leave, reminding his companions to stay safe. The guild members focus on protecting the civilians. Haina understands they must trust him, do their part, and hope he returns safely. At the Titan's base, Wanchul examines the building. Meanwhile, the goons spot him and quickly attempt to contact the control room. They receive word that Zhou Wanchul has arrived at the main gate and is requesting urgent backup. They both crash to the ground as Wanchul forcefully pushes them. He tells them he has no interest in dealing with small fries and offers them an ultimatum. They have the opportunity to live if they call their guildmaster right now, Ordi. The man quickly informs the control room to contact the guildmaster, but he also ends up getting beaten by Wanchul. Upon receiving this news, Yong-suk realizes that Wanchul has indeed stormed all the way here. Though Juntai never imagined he would walk right into his, he vows to bring the head of the tyrant guildmaster to Yong-suk as a gift, even at the cost of his own life. News is spreading nationwide about the war between the major guilds in the heart of the city. To prevent civilian casualties, the police and the Hunter Association have implemented a regional lockdown, restricting traffic and sealing off the battle zones. The Hunter Association is operating shelters for residents in the affected areas. Those in designated zones should evacuate immediately, following the association's guidance. Meanwhile, Wanchul has been eliminating the weaker opponents, announcing that Titan has already fallen. These weaklings were meant to serve as the elite forces protecting the main base. The guards chose to retreat for the time being, realizing they couldn't withstand an S-rank opponent. However, one of the guards orders them to hold the line at all costs until the new guild master arrives. After a few minutes, all the guys collapsed on the ground. One Chul huffs, pondering whether Seo Sung-ho has changed significantly. His subordinates are falling one after another, yet he hasn't shown his face. He screams for Seo Sung-ho. Surprisingly, Juntai rushes toward him, demanding to know who gave him permission to run wild. Upon seeing him, Wonchul is stunned and asks what he is doing there. Juntai reveals that he is now the new guild master, and in that moment, he pushes Wonchul. This revelation leaves Wonchul feeling confused. He inquires about Sengho. Juntai smirks and hints that the question should be posed to Sengho himself when they meet in the afterlife. Wonchul replies reluctantly that Juga is the one who will be heading to the afterlife today. Provoked, Juntai laughs maniacally, mocking him for bluffing as they charge forward to clash. When Yongsuk exits the building, he is shocked to find all his guild members lying lifeless on the ground. Ground proposes calling clerics to heal them, but they have all been deployed to other battles, making it difficult right now. Now, every branch is engaged in war, leaving no other choice. Not just the clerics, but every last remaining soldier at the main base has also been deployed. Yongsuk attempts to piece everything together. With the troops now dispersed across various branches, Jo Wonchul has launched a solo attack. The timing seems too perfect. Wonchul had planned this from the beginning. The war was merely a distraction. His true objective was to storm the main base alone and bring everything to an end. Normally, such a reckless plan wouldn't even be feasible. An S-rank's power transforms the impossible into reality. Ultimately, the outcome of this war will hinge on the battle between Juntai and Wonchul, two formidable S-rank fighters. In the dungeon within the boss room, Lucia seeks to understand. She has been analyzing this information for days. If she can decipher this magic circle, she should be able to return to her original dimension. As the realization sinks in, she understands that once she leaves this place, she won't have the chance to enjoy snacks anymore. Her thoughts quickly shift to Jin Hyuk, who has been gone for quite some time. She wonders if he's okay, but reassures herself that he's likely fine. After all, Jin Hyuk is likely now stronger than those so-called S-rank hunters. The battle is fierce. Wonchul unleashes a devastating energy attack, surrounded by an intense blue aura. Juntai unleashes a powerful force to counter the relentless attack surging toward him at incredible speed. Both combatants struggle for dominance. Juntai soars through the air, weapon in hand, aiming to slice Wonchul's head off. A shimmering protective shield has already been created by a spell to safeguard him. To break the barrier, Juntai strikes the weapon against the ground, triggering a massive explosion that sends debris flying in all directions. Far away, Jong-yuk makes his way toward the battlefield. Upon arriving at the location, he feels a deep sadness as he watches them fight, completely disregarding the city and its people. The city is being torn apart, not by monsters or great terrorists, but by the selfish actions of hunters who have long forgotten their duty. They say the power of an S-rank is akin to a natural disaster. Witnessing the devastation, Jin Hyuk finally grasps the true significance of it all. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to step in at all. These warriors are formidable and nearly impossible to defend against, but now things have changed. With the power of divine energy at his disposal, he can take both of them down. Meanwhile, the fight between Juntai and Wonchul rages on. As they clash their weapons, they hear a voice commanding them to stay to the right, there, nice and close. Before they could react, Jin-hyuk launched an attack on both of them, causing them to stumble backward. Wonchul stands at the corner, his gaze darting toward the newcomer, curious about who this guy is, while Jin-hyuk mockingly greets Juntai. Juntai remembers that he is the same guy who was beaten up and fled. Still, Wonchul is observing Jin-hyuk and the energy emanating from him. The energy radiating from him is unlike anything he has encountered before. It's difficult for him to determine whether he is an A-rank or an S-rank. He wonders if there are hunters like these in Korea. As Jin's gaze shifts toward Wonchul, he recognizes him, the same scumbag who sacrificed countless women to Al-Rahan. Instead of attacking, Jin Hyuk calmly addresses them, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him, and asks them to confirm whether they are truly hunters. He gestures around at the devastation, highlighting how the city lies in ruins. Innocent people are caught in this war, suffering and enduring pain. After witnessing all of that, he urges them to reflect. Don't they feel at least a hint of guilt? Rather than feeling ashamed, Juntai smirks shamelessly. Guilt? Why would he feel that? He admits he wouldn't care about those pathetic insects. When he neglects to watch out for bugs while walking, it doesn't matter if a few insignificant civilians perish. Juntai mocks him for being just another self-righteous hypocrite, believing Seo Sung-ho was the only one of his kind. After considering everything, Jin-hyuk realizes they are truly worse than animals. Even animals must possess a bit of sympathy, and he thanks them for making this task easier. Now, he can kill them without hesitation. Jin-hyuk tightens his grip on the bat. Energy streams radiate from it. He acknowledges Jun-tae for clarifying things for him. Jun-tae, not taking him seriously, pretends to misunderstand, as he is determined to kill both Jin-hyuk and Won-chul. He asks Jo Won-chul to wait for a moment while he handles this arrogant guy first. Won-chul thinks strategically, maintaining a casual demeanor while acknowledging that it will be entertaining for him. Deep down, he knows that if these two fight and exhaust each other, it will ultimately be a win-win situation for him. Jin-hyuk turns to Won-chul, offering him the option to join, as he is unafraid to take both of them down at once. Seeing him act so cocky, Jun-tae couldn't hold back, and with breakneck speed, rushed toward Jin-hyuk. His weapon was aimed at Jin. Jin-hyuk remains still in his position, simply extending his bat, blocking his entire body with ease. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead as he hadn't anticipated his opponent blocking the attacks now, especially when he had struggled to defend against even a single one before. Jin-hyuk is eager to understand the reason behind his stunned expressions, especially since he hasn't even begun yet. With a swift flick of his enchanted bat, infused with divine energy, Jun-tae is forced to retreat. Won-chul's eyes widen in surprise. He never imagined Jun-tae would be pushed back with such intensity. Taking advantage of Jun-tae's shock, Jin-hyuk swiftly moves in to strike him. He quickly deflects the attack by tilting his head slightly. Jun-tae's anger intensifies when Jin-hyuk dares to put a scratch on his face, prompting him to gather his strength for a counterattack. He may not know exactly what Jin has done, but it's clear that he has become significantly stronger. He admits that it was a shame to spare him back then. Jin-hyuk laughs as he notices the regret washing over Jun-tae's face, realizing just how strong he is. Rather than admitting the truth, Jun-tae arrogantly huffs, declaring that regardless of the circumstances, Jin-hyuk will die by his hand. Jin assures him that things won't go as he hopes. On that day, when he barely escaped, he made a promise to himself. He would grow stronger and take down the one who humiliated him, the one who believes he is superior. Jun-tae stands there, fully aware that this situation is troublesome. He never anticipated Jin-hyuk would become this strong. Questions swirl in his mind. How did he become this strong? Did he rely on some tricks? Then something pops into his mind and he realizes he needs to confront the situation. Before Jin could respond, Hwan-chul insisted on knowing why Al-Ra'an's elixir was being brought up. Jun-tae revealed to Hwan that Jin-hyuk is the one who killed Al-Ra'an and took the elixir. Bibu, Hwan-hedia, Hwan-chul's jaw drops as he questions Jin-hyuk, asking if he is truly the one who took the elixir and killed the Al-Ra'an. Jin-hyuk smirks and, without saying a word, he pulls out a bottle containing the elixir, holding it up and questioning if this is the same elixir they are discussing. The moment Hwan-chul spots the elixir, his face flushes a deep crimson. It ignites something within him, prompting him to charge forward and attack. Jin-hyuk skillfully dodges the attack. His anger intensifies, prompting him to launch another attack with a powerful punch, but ends up punching the ground as Jin-hyuk vanishes from sight in the blink of an eye. He dodges the attack again by leaping, despite being trapped with his whole body. Jin-hyuk knows that if that last attack had connected, it could have been extremely dangerous, so he lets out a sigh of relief. His attention quickly shifts to the sky when he spots a drone flying overhead. An announcement is being made from the drone, which is live streaming the battle between two S-rank hunters. The battlefield has transformed into a total war zone, with every building reduced to rubble. As the battle rages on, a new hunter enters the scene. They are referring to Jin-hyuk. Although they haven't pinpointed the whereabouts or details of the newcomer, he is standing his ground against the two S-ranks. In a different setting, Secretary Lee Hae-na lets out a sigh of relief as everything unfolds according to plan. The media has arrived safely at the scene, and now the stage is set just as they envisioned. Jun-tae can't believe his eyes as he watches our hero effortlessly dodge the attacks of the tyrant's guildmaster. Not only that, his counterattacks are even more powerful, and he is landing each one with precision. He begins to wonder what he did to become this strong. Meanwhile, Won-chul is getting beaten up by a teenager. After being thrown to the ground, he gets up and asks if he's truly going easy on him. This makes him even more furious as he looks down on him. He screams, urging Jun-tae to stay out of the fight, insisting that he will be the one to take our boy down. With all his strength, he charges forward, declaring that things will be different from now on. However, this appears to be nothing more than a coping mechanism. As he continues to be overwhelmed, he still can't land a single hit. Jin-hyuk pushes him back with his bare fists and declares that everything looks the same to him. Without giving him a moment's rest, he steps forward and strikes him with his bat. The guy barely manages to block the attack. At that moment, Jun-tae emerges from behind, trying to catch our hero off guard. Unfortunately for him, Jin-hyuk is several levels ahead. He effortlessly blocks with his bat, never even glancing back. The impact is so powerful that it shatters Jun-tae's spear into pieces. Panic sets in as he sees the MC approaching, and he falls down from the sheer force of Jin-hyuk's swings. Not seeing any other way out of this, Won-chul suggests teaming up, despite the fact that they were just fighting each other moments earlier. The man proposes forming an alliance until they can defeat Jun-tae still doesn't seem to trust him, so he threatens to kill him if he betrays him during their alliance. Won-chul shouts at him to fall into position, believing they might stand a chance against our boy if they combine their strengths. Meanwhile, the news reporter reveals the identities of the two S-rank hunters engaged in the war. However, they still know nothing about the hunter who just joined their fight, and they haven't received any word from the guild master of the Titan Guild. Just as the reporter states this, Seo Sang-ho slowly opens his eyes in his room. Immediately after waking up, the first thing he does is get dressed. He prioritizes his guild's aura over his own health. After preparing himself, he searches for Hyena, pondering her whereabouts. Meanwhile, she receives a call while heading to the battle zone. She is taken aback to learn that he is finally awake and ready to face the world again. She updates him on everything that has been happening. Seo Sang-ho then asks her where she is. She tells him that she is heading to the war zone. Jin-hyuk has formed a new group, and she is now a part of it. This situation is overwhelming for the guild master to manage. He decides to contact Jin-hyuk directly to ask him about it. However, Hyena informs him that it's not possible, as the MC is currently battling two S-rank hunters. Upon hearing this, Seo Sang-ho rises from his seat. Understanding that the kid can't take on two S-ranks, no matter how strong he is, he asks her for the location and declares that he will go there himself. Hyena feels a bit hesitant, concerned about his health. He tells her that it all happened because of him. As the guildmaster, he cannot simply sit back and relax while they continue to fight. She finally agrees and sends him the location of the fight. Although she is concerned about his health, she understands that she must trust his decision, as he is the only one who may be able to put a stop to it. Hyena reminds herself that this is not the time to hesitate. She must do what is required of her. Meanwhile, Jun-tae is doing his best to land a single hit on our hero. However, he is brutally outclassed. Jin-hyuk is reading him like a book, effortlessly blocking all of his attacks. As the battle escalates, the shock waves from their attacks travel even farther. The main character seems preoccupied with Jun-tae when another S-rank charges at him from behind, intent on finishing the job. However, our hero is too clever for them. He quickly jumps up, causing the attacker to nearly collide with their ally. Noticing that his partner is exhausted, Won-chul suggests he drink a mana potion while he keeps the kid occupied. Although Jun-tae feels a bit annoyed about working with him, he knows Won-chul is right. He takes out a mana potion and begins to drink it. He believes they could potentially defeat him by channeling all their mana into one powerful strike. As he regains his strength, the other S-rank hunter appears to be struggling a bit while facing the MC alone. As he grips his fist, Jin-hyuk coldly stares at him and demands to know why he isn't killing him to obtain the elixir for himself. He even mocks him, suggesting he should put in a bit more effort. Before the S-rank can respond, he twists his wrist, breaking it instantly. He strikes him with his bat. Jun-tae watches with wide eyes as the mighty Won-chul is tossed around like a doll. Seeing him lying on the ground, our boy slowly walks over to him and asks if he is still alive. He tells him that he cannot allow him to live because of the crimes he has committed. He lured innocent women and kidnapped them to serve as sacrifices for Elrond. Those who refused to follow him were imprisoned. The guild members who followed him became engulfed in a haze of drugs. What is happening to him right now is the result of his past actions. As he took his final breaths on the ground, Won-chul can't believe his life is ending in such a pathetic manner. The S-rank looks up at him, despair in his eyes, and asks if he is really going to kill him for such a trivial reason. He begins to beg for his life. He offers to make him the guild master if he spares his life. However, Jin-hyuk makes it clear that there is no room for negotiation. All he wants is to ask for his last wish. He had already made up his mind when he saw those people trapped that day, simply waiting to die. Won-chul still doesn't understand why he wants to kill him simply for kidnapping a few people. Regardless of the reason, the main character knows he has ample reason to kill him, so he decisively stabs him with the bat and finishes the job. The man screams as the bat pierces his chest. He thought to himself that he couldn't die like this. However, none of that matters. He gradually loses consciousness. After his death, our boy makes sure to remind him to apologize to all the people he killed in the afterlife. Meanwhile, Juntai watches in horror as the events unfold before him. He considers whether he should seize the opportunity to strike Jinhyuk while he is distracted. Nevertheless, the fear in his eyes reveals that he no longer believes he can succeed. The only thing on his mind is running, but it's too late for that now. Jinhyuk sees him attempting to escape. He throws his bat directly at him, demanding to know where he thinks he's going. The bat swoops toward him with the speed of a bullet. The S-rank barely manages to deflect the attack. He attempts to play it cool, claiming that he isn't running away. Instead, he says he's simply letting him off the hook this time. The guy underestimates the MC's speed and agility. As he takes off, he quickly realizes that he is no match for the MC's determination and skill. This is not the case, as our boy quickly catches up to him and tells him that he doesn't need to hold back. Meanwhile, Seo Sang-ho and Hyena arrive at the ruined buildings. She guides him to the spot and notes that he will enter the battle zone once he passes through. Before he leaves, she asks him to reconsider one last time. However, the guy has already made up his mind. He tells her that he can't leave everything to Jinhyuk, so he feels he must step in to help. Hyena suggests that he take some time to recover, but he tells her he has already made up his mind to finish what he started. She finally concedes and asks him not to push himself beyond what is necessary. Seo Sang-ho prepares to leave, looking up at the sky as he asks Jinhyuk to wait for him. Meanwhile, Young-suk watches the entire fight from a rooftop, realizing that the situation has become far more complex than he anticipated. What should have been a straightforward duel between the two S-rank hunters has taken an unexpected turn. He never imagined that someone more powerful than him would join the fight. As the fight rages on, he comes to the painful realization that he must abandon Jeontae, as there is no way for him to save him. He aimed to establish the greatest guild. He viewed Seo Sang-ho as an obstacle to achieving his goal. Consequently, he poisoned him. Now, no one can stop him from building the guild he desires. He glances at Jinhyuk and declares that he will let him go this time. For now, he must escape and concentrate on swaying public opinion in his favor. Before Seo Sang-ho left to assist the MC, Hyena shares something important with him. She revealed that while monitoring the battle zone with the drones, she spotted Young-suk standing on the rooftop of the Titan building. Back in the present, the guild master emerges behind the traitor, making him shake in fear before. The guy can do anything. He screams his name and grabs hold of him. He grabs him by the collar, demanding to know why he would betray his own guild like this. Young-suk looks at him and asks if he really doesn't know the reason. He claims he did it because the guild no longer needs him. This revelation hits the guild master hard, prompting him to ask what he means. He explains that he was hindering the guild's growth and that they have no need for a leader like him. Seo Sang-ho sees through his empty words and calls him out, stating that he is merely trying to justify his actions, which were driven by his own greed. Young-suk, on the other hand, insists that he saved the guild from destruction. The guildmaster disagrees, asserting that the guild is actually being ruined because of Young-suk's actions and the incident he orchestrated. Left with nothing more to say, the traitor summons his knife and prepares for the confrontation ahead, attempting to stab the guildmaster. Despite not being fully recovered, Seo Sang-ho easily dodges the attack, expressing that his opponent continues to disappoint him until the very end. This gives the man a chance to escape, and he begins to run. He reflects that his only crime was creating the greatest guild. Blaming Jinhyuk for interfering with his plan, he leaps off the building. The guildmaster pursues him, calling forth his own weapon. While still airborne, he swings his axe, striking the man directly in the head, demanding that he take responsibility for the disaster he has caused. With a loud scream, his head is brutally split open. He falls to the ground as Seo Sang-ho stands over him, declaring that he has finally fulfilled his duty. However, he suddenly remembers Jinhyuk and realizes he has spent too much time pursuing the traitor. He rushes to the site to assist the MC. Meanwhile, our hero is effortlessly taking down the S-rank. After taking a hit to the chest, Juntai struggles to breathe. Jinhyuk points his bat at him, questioning if this is the end. He realizes he has reached his limit and sees no way to escape this situation. Desperate to survive, he begins pleading for his life, promising to give him everything he desires and even his own position within the guild. Hearing this, the MC recalls their last battle together. Even after being stabbed by the spear, he never begged for his life and fought until the very end. This still doesn't stop the S-rank from begging. Before finishing his life, Jinhyuk tells him that if he wants to live, he must be prepared to struggle until the very end. Before the man can say anything else, he literally smashes his head clean off the body. With the S-rank now eliminated, the main character stands there in silence. He thought to himself that he had finally managed to stop the S-rank hunters using his own strength. Suddenly, he hears Seo Sung-ho calling out to him, asking if he is hurt. He is shocked to see the guildmaster alive and well and asks him when he woke up. The man reassures him not to worry, explaining that he woke up some time ago and has since recovered. He then inquires about what happened. Jin-hyuk responds that it's a long story. He reveals that he was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to grow stronger, which enabled him to take down the S-rank hunters. However, the guildmaster still can't believe how much stronger he has become in such a short time. Noticing his confusion, our boy assures him that he will explain everything later. But for now, they need to address the damage inflicted on the city. Sang-ho assures him not to worry, as he and Hyena will handle everything. The important thing is that he has received a message from Hyena stating that the association wants to meet with him. The scene shifts to a training room at the Hunters Association headquarters. Jin-hyuk stands in confusion. Although he accepted their invitation to visit the headquarters, he still doesn't understand why they are putting him through this. A voice informs him that this is a test, and he must destroy the drones ahead while dodging their attacks. Before he can grasp the situation, the drones begin their attack. He instinctively decides to take care of them first. Drones are attacking him from every direction, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to evade their attacks. However, compared to his earlier fight against the S-ranks, this doesn't even qualify as a warm-up for him. With a confident smile on his face, he stepped forward, ready to embrace the challenges ahead. He stares at the screen in front of him and expresses his annoyance, stating that he wasn't informed about the test earlier. The girl on the other side explains that this is part of the official procedure to determine his rank as a hunter. After his recent battle with the two hunters, he emerged victorious against two S-rank opponents on his own, so the association can no longer classify him as a C-rank. Despite hearing all this, he still believes the test is pointless. Jin-hyuk begins to lose his temper and demands that they open the door so he can leave. The girl attempts to soothe him. However, it's futile, as he no longer wishes to be part of this test. As he approaches the door, she frantically tries to stop him, insisting that he can't leave the room until the test is finished. To their surprise, he breaks through the door by striking it with his bat. He walks out, declaring that it was simply a waste of his time. It turns out that the association isn't finished with him just yet. He is stopped by someone as he takes a few steps. He warns them to step aside if they don't want to be killed. All the hunters have already witnessed his power, so they understand he is not making empty threats. They glance at their team leader, awaiting his next command. Judging by his expression, it seems he is reluctant to make a move. Jin-hyuk concludes that they are doomed. Just as he prepares to strike, he hears a voice from behind telling him to stop. Before he can turn around, he notices the hunters bowing down to a figure in respect, referring to him as the chairman. He soon realizes that it is No Tak-soo, the chairman of the Hunters Association. Jin-hyuk greets the chairman and inquires why he summoned a C-rank hunter like himself. Noticing Jin-hyuk's distress, the chairman offers an apology. He called him here because someone wanted to meet with him. The individual he is referring to is none other than the strongest hunter in South Korea, Chae Sung-ho. Even our boy is taken aback upon seeing the #1 hunter standing right in front of him. As the man approaches him, dressed in his immaculate outfit, he wonders why someone like him would want to meet someone like him. Chae steps forward to shake hands with the MC, creating a moment that feels like a fan interaction. He asks him why he wanted to meet. The guy mentions that he saw footage of his recent fight against the two S-rank hunters. Chae praises him for his performance and expresses her desire to meet him in person. The MC expresses gratitude, but he senses there is something deeper at play. It doesn't take long for the top-ranked hunter to express his desire to ask for a favor. Meanwhile, Seo Sung-ho and Hyena are having a conversation over tea in his apartment. She informs him that, according to their latest findings, the remnants of the Tyrant Guild and the Titan Guild have merged into the Pantheon Guild with the association's approval. She apologizes, explaining that she did her best to save the guild. Upon hearing this, he tells her that disbanding the guild was the right decision. He appears to have some regret about his past actions. He believes he could have avoided this mess if he had listened more to the other guild members. With this announcement, he reveals his retirement from the hunting business. Hyena hands him a contract form and states that it would be a waste for him to retire at this time. After reviewing the contract, he realizes it's a registration form for the Pantheon Guild. She explains that their guild needs someone with his skills. That is also what their guildmaster believes. He finds the entire situation strange, especially since he was initially placed in a test room, and now the strongest hunter in the country wants to challenge him to a fight. The chairman and the girl are watching the fight live on their screen. She can't believe that Chae-yong actually came to the headquarters of his own accord, as he is rarely seen in public. The chairman reveals that he met the hunter earlier. After witnessing Jin Hyuk's battle with the two hunters, he realized he had finally found someone he could fight alongside, or perhaps even someone who could rival him. As the MC questions him about the reason for their fight, the top hunter admits that he isn't sure himself. Regardless, our protagonist refuses to back down from a challenge and is prepared to engage in battle. The girl begins to feel anxious and asks the chairman if they are truly going to allow them to fight. He laughs and assures her that it's fine, as they are simply engaged in a normal spar. Back in the fight, Chae-yong summons his sword. Both hunters encourage each other to give it their all. Jin Hyuk smiles to himself, realizing that he doesn't care about his ranking. All he wants is revenge for the torment he suffered because of him. Meanwhile, Hyena is stunned to receive a call from the association notifying her that the top-ranked hunter is about to spar with Jin Hyuk. Noticing her expressions, Sang-ho realizes something is wrong and asks her what is going on. She puts down the phone and realizes that Chae-yong Sang-ho is about to face off against the MC. Concerned, he asks her why they are fighting, but she has no answers. Fearing for Jin Hyuk's safety, the two decide to head to the Hunters Association. The scene shifts to the fight, where both hunters are patiently waiting for the other to lower their guard. The girl turns to the chairman and asks for his thoughts on the match. At that moment, the two hunters charge at each other, and their weapons clash. The chairman believes that the top-ranked hunter will emerge victorious. In the actual fight, both hunters appear to be evenly matched in terms of their power. As they are both pushed back, Jin Hyuk comes to the realization that Chae-yong stands out from the other S-rank hunters. He decides it's pointless to gauge his strength first. Instead, he chooses to go all in from the very beginning. It releases a powerful aura shockwave directed at the top-ranked hunter. He stands before the attack, contemplating whether Jin Hyuk is prepared to go all in. This provides him with ample motivation to become serious as well. He slashes clean through the aura and charges at him to launch a counterattack. He wants to witness the MC's true strength and pushes him to his limits. The girl watching grows increasingly worried as the fight intensifies. Even Jin Hyuk can sense the immense power radiating from the top-ranked hunter. He swings his bat, attempting to push him back, and feels a rush of excitement at the prospect of facing someone this strong. This opportunity could allow him to explore his own boundaries. To his surprise, Chae-yong informs him that they cannot proceed any further. As he contemplates the meaning behind the guy's words, the top-ranked hunter announces that he is lost. This leaves Jin Hyuk even more confused. He asks what he is talking about, and even the chairman is shocked, as this is the first time he has seen him admit defeat. The chairman questions why he is ending the spar so suddenly. Chae-yong raises his sword and reveals that if he continues this fight, it may not hold up much longer. Just as he finishes speaking, his sword suddenly shatters into pieces. With this, the chairman declares the duel officially over. This officially elevates Jin Hyuk to the status of an S-rank hunter. It doesn't take long for this news to spread. His battle with the two S-rank hunters is featured prominently across various media channels. They also reveal that he defeated the country's top-ranked hunter in a duel and invite him in for an interview. While being questioned about the defeat, he admits that it is true. He states that Jin Hyuk will undoubtedly become the face of the Korean hunter world. As he walks away from the association, Chae-yong calls out to him and congratulates him on officially becoming an S-class hunter. Our protagonist expresses his gratitude for the interview she conducted on his behalf, but he is curious about her reasons for doing it. The top-ranked player explains that he simply wanted comrades to fight alongside him and share in the experience. This was a way to demonstrate his strength to the association. As he starts to leave, Jin Hyuk stops him and urges him not to hold back in their next fight. He is aware that the sword he wielded during the duel was a fake. As they walk away, he reflects that Chae-yong was definitely going easy on him and had even used a subpar sword. This causes him to question whether he was merely helping him gain recognition for his strength. Regardless, it is thanks to this experience that he realizes he is still not strong enough. Later, he makes his way to the parking lot, where Hyena's car screeches to a halt. She jumps out, clearly worried, and rushes to check on him. Sang-ho steps out as well, equally concerned. Hyena expresses her disbelief about what she heard regarding the spar. The former guildmaster is furious that the association referred to the event as merely a sparring match, especially since he was pitted against the strongest hunter in the country. He even contemplates filing a complaint, but Jin Hyuk remains composed and assures him that he isn't upset. In fact, he learned a great deal. Battling Chae-yong brought back memories of the intense pressure he once experienced at the Dragon Temple. He suggests that they return to the guild to discuss everything. That evening, he finally feels relaxed for the first time in a long time. He reflects on how rare it is to experience true peace. The constant fighting has kept him on edge, but now he can finally relax. At that moment, he receives a call from Junshil, the guild manager. The guy checks in to see if he's okay after the fight with Chae-yong and reminds him not to push himself too hard. While strength is important, staying alive is crucial, especially since he is the guild master. The MC expresses gratitude for the concern and assures everyone that he will take care of himself. He then shifts the conversation, inquiring about how the guild is faring. Junshil delivers exciting news, announcing that they have officially taken control of the Titan and Tyrant guild's assets, which were previously their biggest rivals. They've also opened new hunting zones that are thriving. These areas are helping the guild grow stronger and defend its territory from rival guilds. He invites Junhyuk to visit him soon. He agrees. After the call, our boy sits quietly, feeling exhausted. He pushes through, aware of the tasks that await him. Rather than taking a break, he focuses on fulfilling his obligations. He decides to head to a dungeon to catch up with Chae-yin. He stops by the dwarf craftsman's workshop to ask for help. The dwarf is not pleased to see him, grumbling that he only appears when he needs something. Junhyuk apologizes and explains that he needs his weapon upgraded. The dwarf grumbles that Junhyuk always disappears when sent on errands, making him unreliable. The main character clarifies that he had his reasons and promises to make it up to the dwarf. He then shares details about the spar with Chae-yong. The dwarf becomes furious and seizes his weapon, demanding to know if Junhyuk lost while using the bat he crafted, clearly offended by the implication. Instead of refusing, the dwarf claims he is lucky, as he has been wanting to try out a new technique. He attempts to express his gratitude, but the dwarf interrupts him, stating that he is not acting out of kindness. He simply wants to prove himself as a craftsman. As Junhyuk departs, he begins to think about Lucia, as he hasn't seen her in some time. He realizes she may hold the answer to something that has been troubling him. Filled with hope, he ventures deeper into the dungeon in search of her. As he walks, a nagging feeling creeps in that he's forgetting something important, though he can't quite pinpoint what it is. When he finally finds Lucia, she is furious. She nearly punches him, demanding to know why he came without bringing anything. Instead of answering, Junhyuk tells her he has been looking for her and asks if she has truly been in the dungeon all this time. Lucia confirms that she has been working on a magic circle, which is her only hope of returning to her world. She has made some progress, which catches his attention. He asks if she will be able to return soon. Lucia sighs and explains that it's not as simple as it seems. She has tested her dimensional magic several times, and everything appears to go perfectly. She follows all the steps, and it feels like the spell is working, yet nothing actually happens. Despite the magic feeling right, the outcome is always the same: nothing. She is confident that it should work, but she can't understand why it isn't. As she speaks, a strange portal begins to open in Junhyuk's fridge. The following morning, our boy heads to the local supermarket to buy some snacks for Lucia, hoping to keep her from complaining next time. As he departs, the cashier stops him and asks if he is Guildmaster Kong Junhyuk. With a look of confusion, he confirms it, sparking excitement in the girl. She expresses her admiration, telling him she is a huge fan, and then asks for a photo. He decides to remain calm and composed, smiling politely as he acknowledges their presence while savoring the moment. However, he quickly apologizes and rushes out of the store. As he makes his way back to the cave, he realizes he is more well-known than he initially believed. The dwarf reveals his new weapon, asserting that it is on a whole different level compared to the previous one. As Junhyuk picks up the bat, he begins to feel it absorbing his mana. This leads him to wonder if there is a fault with the bat. The dwarf takes it as an insult and slaps him across the face. He reminds him of the all-around ore he purified last time and explains that he used it for the enhancement. Typically, ore obtained from monsters retains the characteristics of the specific monster it came from. In the case of the all-rounder, the defining trait should have been the ability to absorb life. However, due to his purification, it transformed into the absorption of mana. Since the weapon is draining his mana, it indicates that it is functioning perfectly. However, Junhyuk feels a bit concerned about the bat consuming all of his mana. The dwarf reassures him that the draining will cease after a certain amount. Suddenly, to test it out, our boy points the bat directly at a statue in front of him and swings it through the air. This triggered a powerful shockwave of mana to be released. The dwarf is somewhat impressed that he was able to use it so effectively on his first try. Junhyuk expresses his gratitude for the enhancement, but the old man isn't looking for gratitude. He only wants some booze. As they converse, the dwarf asks him where he is headed today. He replies that he is going to see Lucia for a while. Upon hearing her name, it becomes clear that the dwarf dislikes her. This piques the boy's curiosity, prompting him to ask why the dwarf struggles to get along with her. The old man adopts a serious expression and remarks that it's a long story. The only reason they are putting up with each other is that they have no other choice. However, dwarves and elves have been at war for as long as he can remember. He asserts that the elves betrayed their own people by selling them to the dragons. This revelation comes as a shock to Yunyak. He finally understands the depth of the conflict between the two races. Later, when he meets Lucia, she screams at him as usual, demanding to know where he has been. He responds by asking why she called him to the temple when she is always in the boss's room. Instead of answering, she simply asks him to look around, pointing out that the entrance to the temple has suddenly vanished. Junyuk scans his surroundings with a confused expression and realizes that it is indeed missing. She believes it vanished before he completed the dragon's trial. During one of her recent investigations, she discovered a dimensional teleportation magic circle. This one is even more advanced than the one the mage was using in the boss room. Lucia looks at him and asks if he knows what hour means. The boy quickly realizes that by studying the magic circle, he might be able to return to his original dimension. However, a problem remains. She cannot activate the circle on her own, even if they successfully complete it. In other words, he needs to learn magic from her to assist with the activation. Asks her once more to clarify whether she is implying that he learned magic from her. She explains that it's correct because the magic circle requires a significant amount of mana, and she cannot activate it using her mana alone. Even with his assistance, she is uncertain whether they will be able to activate it. Our protagonist begins to contemplate methods for supplying the magic circle with a substantial amount of mana. He suddenly remembers that his bat can be incredibly effective in this situation, as it stores mana. He encourages her to give it a try. Initially, she feels a bit hesitant. However, she changes her mind when he reveals the mana leaking from the bat. He explains that the old man upgraded his bat, allowing it to store mana. Although he has no idea how much mana is contained in the weapon, it could still be useful for activating the circle. However, when Lucia attempts to touch the bat, she undergoes a tremendous shock. Even the main character feels a bit confused until he recalls that the dwarf engraved a binding effect onto the weapon. So, no one else can use it except for him. This means they can't effectively use the bat. The only option left for them is to teach him magic. She tells him that from now on, he will be her student. His first lesson begins in his apartment, where she even assigns him some homework while he enjoys his snacks. The process proves to be more challenging than he had anticipated, requiring him to memorize a vast amount of magical knowledge. Additionally, he must learn how to control the flow of mana and apply all that knowledge to activate the magic circle. After days of study, he finally manages to grasp the theory of magic. Just as he begins to feel good, she brings him back to reality by reminding him that these were just the basics. His real lessons are about to begin. She begins reviewing the study material with him, and she shows him her research notes on the magic circle that was located in the boss's room. According to her, the magic circle failed because the mage altered the original design to manage all the mana by himself, since it requires a massive amount of resources just to activate. As a result, the teleportation was successful. However, the dungeon materialized in his room instead. Hearing all this, Jinhook asks her why they are discussing the magic circle if it was a failure. She tells him that even if it was a failure, they can compare it to the magic circle in the Dragon Temple to understand why it didn't succeed. This will help them create a more effective solution. From that day forward, the two of them continued their research on how to create the perfect magic circle. Jinhook became increasingly proficient in magic as time passed. Before long, he was finally able to pour mana into the magic circle. He filled the bat with the maximum amount of mana and swung it with all his might, channeling everything into the magic circle. Lucia is assisting him in the process, letting him know that she will give him a signal when he has poured in enough mana. As the two begin to pour mana into the magic circle, it suddenly illuminates and begins to glow. This indicates that the magic circle is responding to the mana. Jinhyuk just needs to keep pouring in mana until it finally activates. However, something goes awry. His bat unexpectedly begins to leak aura. He does his best to stop it, but it's beyond his control. Even Lucia is confused and asks him why he is injecting aura into the circle. The MC confesses that he is also uncertain about what is happening. The two do their best to keep the circle engaged. Moments later, the ground beneath them begins to shake. The floor beneath the magic circle completely collapses. Fortunately, they both manage to retreat just in time before the ground collapses, avoiding being caught up in the chaos. However, this also means that their only option for returning is now lost. Lucia screams at him, accusing him of causing the circle to vanish. Meanwhile, the portal inside his fridge begins to glow even brighter. Later, they sit together in his apartment as she enjoys some snacks. He apologizes to her, explaining that he never expected his bat to begin injecting aura into the circle. She remains unconvinced and screams at him, insisting that he doesn't even understand the difference between mana and aura. My man is literally pushed back by her words as he explains that he uses the bat all the time, so he might have accidentally converted the mana into aura. At this point, she has calmed down somewhat and admits that it is also her fault for not checking before they began the activation. Still, it means they have lost their chance to return. This weighs quite heavily on the main character. He assures her that he will find a way to fix the situation and asks if she needs anything. Upon hearing this, she screams at him to bring her the tastiest and sweetest treats he has. He rushes to the fridge and asks her if she wants some cake. As soon as he opens the door, an intense wave of cold air rushes out. This is not typical behavior for a refrigerator. He calls her over to take a look. When she finally approaches, they both gaze in awe at a completely new world beyond the fridge door. She smiles as she realizes that the magic circle has succeeded after all. The snowy landscape they are witnessing right now is the result of that magic circle. Moreover, based on the mana she senses, Lucia believes this is the dimension where she once lived. Although she has no idea how the portal opened inside the fridge, she suggests going in to investigate. Jinyuk agrees and tells her that he just needs to take care of a few things first. He immediately calls Junshol, the co-founder of his guild, and asks if he can come over, inviting Hyena to join them as well. When they finally arrive, he explains that he is temporarily leaving to train. After his fight with Chaeyoung, he realized he still wasn't good enough. Hearing this, Junshol asks if he has found a way to become even stronger. He replies that he isn't sure yet, but it's a possibility. The report notes that the guild is currently thriving. However, if he is absent for an extended period, challenges may arise. Before Jinyuk has a chance to respond, our boy Junshol stands up and assures him that there is nothing to worry about. He states that he will take care of everything so he doesn't have to worry. With their guild influence being as strong as his, he can leave and return even stronger. Later, Junshol contacts another guild member to inform him that the master will be away for a while, so he will be taking on more of the guild's responsibilities. The man feels a bit worried upon hearing this and asks if it's truly okay for him to leave at such a time. The co-founder assures him that it's all right, explaining that when the guild master returns stronger, their influence will expand even further, allowing them to become the #1 guild in the country. Meanwhile, Lucia is waiting for him to change. He steps outside wearing a heavy winter coat and apologizes, explaining that he had more to pack than he anticipated. Afterward, he hands her a special bow along with some arrows, and it is revealed that the dwarf instructed him to give it to her. She quietly examines the weapon for a moment and remarks that providing her with a few arrows is not a big deal. However, her expression suddenly shifts as she realizes that the arrowhead is of top quality. Jinyuk expresses his excitement, noting that he initially thought it was just a regular arrow because he had tossed it so casually. He notes that the old man truly cares for her well-being. Lucia still isn't ready to acknowledge it. However, she mentions that she may eventually have to repay him for this. The two of them finally decide to step in. He can immediately tell that this is a different dimension. They ponder where to begin their investigation and stumble upon a mysterious dungeon. Our boy appears excited about this and insists that something is definitely hiding inside. She agrees, and the two of them decide to venture into the dungeon. The dungeon is deeper and larger than they initially assumed. As soon as they step inside, she immediately senses monsters running toward them. Lucia cautiously stops him and tells him to get ready because it's about to happen. It doesn't take long for the monsters to emerge, and they turn out to be Yetis. The monsters leap fiercely toward them. She asks our boy if he can handle them. With a confident smile, he assures her that he has it all under control. He summons his bat and prepares for the challenge ahead. He claims he can take them out with his eyes closed. She finds it amusing and tells him that he talks too much. The two of them begin to clear out the monsters with ease, as the MC engages them directly, while Lucia provides support from the rear. The intensity escalates, with both sides fiercely clashing in a struggle for dominance. The air is thick with tension as warriors display their skills, each determined to emerge victorious. Amidst the chaos, strategies are tested, alliances are forged, and the outcome hangs in the balance. She begins to realize just how effective the arrows are. Jinyuk is feeling confident, so he decides to finish it with one final blow. Meanwhile, the dragon god receives word that the apostle has crossed dimensions. He sits in his chair, listening to the dragon, and announces that he will meet the apostle soon. The dragon still struggles to understand why he bestowed the rank of apostle upon a human like himself rather than a noble dragonkin. Upon hearing this, the dragon god reveals that his actions were driven by the man's destiny. He was destined to bring ruin to the world. A fierce battle erupts between Jinyuk and the monstrous creatures. Our hero leaps into the air, ready to bring the fight to a quick conclusion. Without hesitation, he swings his bat down with the force of a bolt of lightning. The weapon strikes the creature's skull, killing it instantly. Breathing heavily, he opens his inventory and reads the name of the monster. Yeti. The name catches him off guard. He doesn't remember ever seeing such a creature before. Lucia quickly approaches and reacts sharply upon hearing the word Yeti. She explains that Yetis are known to live in packs in the mountains. If the creature he just killed was indeed a Yeti, they needed to leave the cave immediately. Jinyuk, puzzled by her urgency, asks about the sudden need to flee. She warns him that killing a single Yeti often provokes the entire pack to retaliate. When they do, their strength is overwhelming and merciless. Before they can continue their discussion, a blizzard suddenly roars through the tunnel, and monstrous howls echo from the shadows. Realizing the danger, he asks her why she didn't mention this earlier. She admits she only just remembered. With no time for arguments, she urges him to flee. As they flee, the icy floor begins to crack beneath their feet. Despite the danger, he glances back at the advancing creatures and wonders if running is truly necessary. From his perspective, the Yetis don't appear to be particularly strong. Lucia explains that the risk extends beyond the monsters themselves. The cave structure is fragile, and any battle fought here could lead to a collapse of the ice, endangering everyone inside. Suddenly, he comes to a halt. Lucia, alarmed, demands to know why he has stopped in such a dangerous location. He responds calmly, saying that he has a tool that might help. He pulls out a flash grenade, intending to use it to immobilize the monsters. Just as he prepares to throw it, something unexpected occurs. Instead of pursuing them further, the Yetis begin to retreat back into the cave. Jinyuk and Lucia are both taken aback. The creatures that had been charging at them just moments earlier now seemed frightened. She gazes into the depths of the cave and suggests that the Yetis may be sensing an even greater danger ahead. She believes their instincts are warning them not to go any further. The main character is stunned by the thought that something so terrifying could be lurking deeper in the cave, something capable of frightening away an entire pack of Yetis. She confirms that she senses a strange and powerful magical energy, unlike anything she has felt before. It is dark, twisted, and deeply unsettling. She suggests that the only way to learn more is to move ahead. They push forward until the tunnel opens into a vast hidden area. In the center of the mist stands a large, snow-covered structure. Lucia notes that this is the source of the dark magical energy they've been sensing. Jinyuk decides they should investigate further. However, Lucia remains tense and warns that the aura surrounding the place is unsettlingly unnatural. Even she, who has never known fear in battle, feels a deep unease in her chest, as if something within the structure is observing them. Elsewhere, in a different space enveloped in darkness, the dragon god sits in solitude, whispering that he has finally discovered what he has been searching for. The final messenger has arrived, and now we must wait for what is to come. The two of them make their way toward the temple. The air is frigid, and an unsettling tension hangs in the atmosphere, suggesting that something dangerous lies ahead. As they venture deeper, they spot a man standing silently in the distance. Jinyuk senses that something is not right with him, and Lucia cautions that the man emanates dark energy. He wonders if the man is still human and suggests they try talking to him. However, she quickly declines, stating that she has never felt this kind of mana before. The man begins to speak, his voice rough as he expresses surprise at anyone's presence. He inquires if they were sent by him. Jinyuk replies that they came to investigate after sensing ominous mana and asks the man who he is. The man suddenly becomes angry and yells that intruders cannot be allowed to leave after witnessing this place. The atmosphere grows tense. Lucia urges him to step back quickly. She suddenly remembers who this man is and explains that he is, in fact, a dragon. The area around them begins to shift. The man transforms into a massive red dragon right before their eyes. The dragon announces that they have entered a sacred place and must now pay the price. She prepares for battle, confidently stating that she has faced dragons before. The MC steals themselves, gathering their resolve despite the shock. They take a deep breath and ready their stance, determined to face whatever comes next. Then, everything suddenly freezes. The wind comes to a halt and the fire extinguishes. Even the dragon and Lucia are unable to move. Jinyuk feels confused. He realizes that Lucia isn't moving either. A deep voice announces that time has come to a halt. A figure appears in the air, draped in a black cloak. Instead of walking on the ground, he seems to float or tear through the fabric of space itself. Jinyuk asks, "Who are you?" The man responds, introducing himself as Ordo, the creator of the dragon Tiamat. He also asserts that he is the god of the world. The main character is taken aback, but is unsure whether to trust what they've heard. Ordo states that it doesn't matter whether he believes him. The truth remains unchanged. He explains that he has been observing humans for a long time. Initially, he appreciated the way people lived, but then they began to fight each other, causing widespread destruction. He didn't want humans to bring about their own destruction. He became a god to protect them. He created monsters to provide humans with a common enemy and empower people to fight back by transforming them into hunters. Initially, everything went smoothly, and people collaborated effectively. However, humans began to wield their powers against one another once more. Ordo states that Jinyuk has utilized his power in a similar manner. He explains that he was never meant to be this strong, and in order to become his apostle, he had to endure many more trials. However, his plan failed when an anomaly from another dimension disrupted everything. A powerful magician had relocated the dungeon into his room. This enabled him to grow stronger sooner than anticipated. Ordo attempted to destroy the dungeon when Jinyuk first entered, but the dragon god within blocked him, leading him to abandon his efforts. Due to the dungeon's effects, he was unable to locate him until recently, when the dragon god's presence finally vanished. Now he can meet him face to face at last. He then informs Jinyuk that he had marked him as his apostle long ago. His plan was to become a powerful protector of humanity, someone capable of bringing peace and standing at the pinnacle of the world. He offers him the position, declaring it his rightful place. However, he also adds a chilling threat. If he refuses, he will have to die simply for having seen this place. The MC reflects for a moment before calmly responding with a firm no. He acknowledges that he once desired that kind of power and destiny, but he refuses to follow Ordo. He accuses him of knowing the extent of his pain and doing nothing to help. Now, asking him to serve as his apostle feels like manipulation. Our boy tells him that he would rather die fighting than be a puppet for someone else. The man laughs at his response, calling him foolish for not grasping his deeper intentions. Then he changes his approach. He floats into the air and declares that if Jinyuk won't join him willingly, he'll resort to another method. He introduces a creature named Tiamat. He created it after capturing an ancient dragon from another world. It is his most powerful creation, and he asserts that nothing can stop it, not even hunters or monsters. He intends to use this creature to annihilate everything and create a new world populated solely by those who cherish peace. Jinyuk will be the first sacrifice to this new creature. Even in the face of this terrifying threat, our boy stands his ground. He grits his teeth and tells Ordo to bring it on. Then he charges straight at the enemy. The guy admires Jinyuk's bravery but points out that it's pointless, as he will ultimately be left behind. Meanwhile, deep underground, a dwarf is putting the finishing touches on a shiny new set of armor. He talks to himself, noting that it took longer than expected to make this armor because the old one was too worn out. He recalls Jinyuk and jokes that the guy better bring him some good booze as a thank you. He remembers how he was weak when they first met, but gradually became one of the strongest individuals on the continent, likely aided by that boisterous elf as well. He wonders what they will bring back this time and laughs, imagining it could even be a dragon. Back at the battle, Ordo snaps his fingers. The giant creature suddenly comes to life. Its eyes glow when it begins to move, its massive muscles flexing powerfully. Lucia regains consciousness and quickly understands the situation unfolding around her. She shouts at Jinyuk to watch out. The dragon unleashes a massive blast of fire in his direction. The MC attempts to dodge, but is moving too quickly. He ends up getting swallowed by the dragon. Lucia gasps in shock and screams in despair. Ordo smiles coldly, mocking him for delivering a dramatic speech only to be eliminated so swiftly. Suddenly, a voice growls from deep within the dragon's mouth. He is still alive. Using sheer strength, he begins to force the dragon's jaws open from the inside. The dragon roars in pain. Lucia feels an overwhelming sense of relief and asks if he is okay. Jinyuk responds affirmatively, stating that he cannot allow someone like Ordo to destroy the world. No matter what it takes, he will stop him. He laughs, finding it amusing, and declares that he wants to see how long he can hold on. Meanwhile, Hyena receives a call from the co-founder of the guild, and he informs her that the association has issued a mandatory summons. She asks in confusion why this is happening. He mentions that he doesn't know the exact reason, but dungeons are appearing all across the city, including within their own jurisdiction. For this reason, they are requesting their cooperation. Upon hearing this, she informs him that she will notify the other guild members right away. After she hangs up the phone, Sango asks her what is happening. She reveals that a large number of gates have suddenly appeared in Region 9. Interestingly, this location is situated close to Jinyuk's house. Meanwhile, our hero is trapped in the mouth of Tiamat the dragon. Lucia is anxious, fearing he might burn to death if he doesn't escape soon. The MC struggles to escape, but the dragon is too powerful, preventing him from pushing its mouth open. Suddenly, the elf releases an arrow that strikes it directly in the head. The dragon screams in pain and opens its mouth, giving our hero just enough time to escape. Despite taking a direct hit from the arrow, the dragon appears to be unharmed. As Jinyuk falls to the ground, it becomes clear that the situation has taken a dramatic turn. Furiously, he flies towards him to finish him off. He immediately gets up, feeling as though he isn't even being given a moment to breathe. The dragon crashes to the ground, using all its strength to crush our hero. Simultaneously, Lucia takes aim and shoots another arrow at it. However, the dragon spots her before she has a chance to shoot. It uses its tail to strike her. The impact sends her flying through the air. The MC finally understands just how powerful this dragon is, having made her fall with just a single blow. With her down, the dragon shifts its focus back to our hero. As the pressure mounts, Jinyuk realizes he has no choice but to give it his all. Ordo appears somewhat disappointed in the MC and feels that it's all come to an end. He commands the dragon to finish him, but something feels amiss. Despite the dragon using all its strength, it cannot crush our boy. The dragon is shocked, unable to believe that a mere human can withstand its power. Jinyuk begins to push back with all his strength, harnessing the abilities he gained from the dragon's temple. He unleashes all that power, screaming at the top of his lungs. This caused the dragon to retreat. It's hard to believe that someone like him can manage such immense power. Even Ordo is shocked and refuses to believe that he has been betrayed. Is witnessing the power of the dragon god. Meanwhile, the dragon god sits upon his throne. He announces that it's time to leave, as his apostle has finally recognized his true power. He rises from his throne, declaring that he will resolve this long-standing grudge today. Back in the other dimension, Ordo senses the energy shifting, a clear sign of the dragon god's impending arrival. Even Jinyuk feels uneasy, as he didn't anticipate the dragon god's power to be this formidable. Additionally, he notices the mark of the dragon on his wrist. Ordo notices the symbol from above and wonders if the dragon god has truly made him his apostle. He understands that he must complete this task before the dragon god arrives, so he commands the dragon to kill him without delay. Tiamat obeys his command and sends forth his power. A massive wave of fire surged toward our boy. Surprisingly, the fire that felt dangerous just a minute ago no longer scares him. He has reached a level where he believes he can easily defeat the dragon. Suddenly, he hears a voice commanding him to stop. For a brief moment, it feels as though time itself has come to a standstill. Jinyuk believes that Ordo is responsible for this, so he yells at him, demanding to know if he has anything else to say. The man is equally confused and tells him that he never stopped time. Meanwhile, he hears the dragon god questioning why it is so difficult to locate him. His eyes widen as he finally realizes that the dragon god has arrived. Ordo didn't anticipate his arrival would be so soon. The MC looks up to see the elder flying above and asks him what he is doing there. The dragon god turns to Ordo and demands to know how he could dare to kidnap a dragon that was like his own child. He had apparently kidnapped his dragon and transformed it into a creature known as Tiamat. The dragon god sees through the deception and tells him that creating a monster from his stolen child to destroy his world was not necessary. He did it solely for his own satisfaction. Even now, he is attempting to kill his apostles simply because he dislikes him. This infuriates Ordo, and he lashes out, claiming that he only did this to bring peace to his world, insisting that it's a small sacrifice to pay for that peace. He truly believes he is Thanatos. Hearing all this, the dragon turns to Jinyuk and asks if any of it makes sense to him. Our boy launches himself toward Ordo, declaring that it's all nonsense. The guy asks him if he understands the situation he is in, since he is interrupting a conversation among the gods. He attempts to stop time by snapping his fingers. However, nothing occurs. With a shocked expression, he questions why his powers aren't affecting the MC. The dragon god explains that he is confronting his proxy. Only those who can wield the power of the dragon possess strength equal to that of a god. Now, he faces defeat at the hands of the very human he once looked down upon. Without wasting a second, our boy swings his bat at him. Ordo successfully blocks the attack, however. His immense power quickly becomes too much for him to handle. Jinyook screams at him, insisting that they don't need a god who seeks to destroy their world. He throws him to the ground. The man falls to the ground amidst the massive explosion, with smoke enveloping the entire area. Our boy opens his eyes to discover he is in a different realm of space. He sees Ordo standing in front of him, reassuring him not to worry. Seeking answers, he asks what Ordo is trying to do. Ordo explains that he has altered the dimensions because he wanted to have a conversation. He admits that he lost the fight and notes that being hit by him changed his entire perception. It made him realize that being a god doesn't mean he knows everything perfectly. Therefore, he has decided to abandon his previous plans and instead take charge of the entire world. As his body begins to fade away, he tells the main character that he will be overseeing everything from above and adds that he must prove himself wrong. Jinyook isn't entirely confident he can manage all that responsibility, but Ordo has made his choice. He appoints him as the new manager of the world, and our protagonist returns to the other dimension. The dragon god asks him if he had a good conversation and explains that Ordo gave up everything to trust humans once more. He returned the dragon, promising to watch over the new world. Before departing, the dragon god informs him that it is his duty to bring peace to his world. He assures him that he will be cheering him on and encourages him to become a manager that even the two gods would recognize. Jinyook stands there contemplating whether he has truly become the manager of this world. At that moment, he hears Lucia's voice calling out to him. He rushes back to her and asks if she is okay. She reveals that she almost died, but the dragon god healed her body, enabling her to recover. Now that everything is settled, our boy invites her to return home. However, she notes that this is her original world, which means she can't leave. This makes him a little sad, and he asks her if it means they won't see each other anymore. They exchange their goodbyes and go their separate ways. Looking down at his world from above, our boy recalls how a dungeon suddenly appeared in his room. He never imagined that a bottom-tier hunter like himself could become the manager of the world. He still wonders what Ordo saw in him to grant him this power. He knows for certain that he must guide humanity down the right path to prevent them from going astray.